Hello. How we doing? The points for the sisters that we got in December, it only really hurt one kind of list. The all Sacresants with the Hospitallers and the Retributers and Vahl and the Paragon Warsuits with some Dominions split by Immolators and a random Canoness or two wandering around. That's about it. If that was your list, that's unfortunate. Games Workshop doesn't want you to play that list anymore. For everyone else, it's a small inconvenience to get a points increase, but my biggest problem is how much it hurts the casual players. Morvenn Vahl, Dominions, Retributers, they're everyday units for normal people. If it was something like, if Triple Wraith Knight was nerfed, even if I was an Eldar player, I don't care because I'm not going to own or play 3 Wraith Knights. So if the nerf had only been on the Triple Hospitaller with Sacresants and the Retributors going up to, say, 110 points, that would have been fine. What we got was not quite fine. We can cope, but that's about it. The nerf was made so we only have Martyrs, Household Martyrs as the competitive detachment. You can still get away with Champions of Faith. I'm still having success with Army of Faith. All I had to do was, if you go back to that list I had in the Battle Sister week for the Army of Faith, it was like I swap a Mortifier for some Arco-flagellants, and that's it, really. Battle Sisters after like a week, 2 weeks now, a week and a half since the balance patch, they're on about 45% win rate. That's not great. That's a big oof. Not ideal. So we're kind of coping and we'll have to adapt some lists a bit more. A lot of people were probably just taking the same list as previous and maybe dropping a unit just so that the points actually work, still trying out the same tactics rather than going full, a whole different style of play when you've only had like a week or so to try things out. That's 1 or 2 games for people. So after Christmas, then we'll start getting some real numbers. Let us begin the tier listing. Ooh, tier list. Ooh, we have a tier list. All right, on this tier list, I have all of the Adepta Sororitas units. They're waiting to go somewhere on the tier list. All we've got to do is decide where. So what we've got is 4 different levels. A tier and B tier are the ones you're going to be taking in your army. B tier is perfectly fine, but there's probably a unit in A tier that does what they do, but slightly better or slightly differently, roughly the same. So there's no S tier. Otherwise, everything is S for Sisters, or S for Adepta Sororitas. A and B tier are the good units. B tier may be slightly different to A tier. C tier are the ones where it's a fine unit, but only if you're playing one detachment or one particular tactic. Otherwise, it's probably not going to work. And D tier units are the ones I discourage you from taking. Okay, we'll do the Dogmata. Dogmata, there you are. You get to go in D tier. We know it's in D tier. So her abilities are improving leadership of her unit. Yeah, she does. She's leadership 6+. But so is the Diologus. And the Diologus is cheaper and gives you better miracle dice. The Diologus did not go up in points. The Dogmata costs 5 points more. The Dogmata would be better if there was a place, like in a Champions of Faith style detachment, where including her in a unit gave you like the key word for something. Like if you added to a Battle Sister squad, then like the Biophagus helps in the Biosanctity Brood Surge for the Gene Stealer cult, now you get the bonuses of that detachment. Or if she had the Penitent keyword, that would work. For any combat enhancements you were thinking of, go better on a Palatine or a Canoness, or you can just have a Ministorum Priest, who has the Penitent keyword and is otherwise, like, better. Or if you wanted to increase your objective control, yeah, the Diologus gives your unit objective control 3. You could have a Hospitaller instead. That improves your objective control by bringing back Sisters. Then you get more objective control. Yeah, she lost any of the, like, prayer stuff. +1 to wound, that would be a good thing. Like Chaplains, Space Marine Chaplains, Chaos, Dark Apostles, give you +1 to wound. If she gave that to a unit, and then she joined a Sacresant squad, your models are +1 to the wound roll, enemy models are -1 to their wound roll. That would work. Then we'd be saying, okay, yeah, I'm going to take this 45-point model in my Sacresants. If they were to do prayers at least as much as they do in Age of Sigmar, that'd be fine. Yeah. Okay. I think that's all. Oh yeah, we already have the priest to give us +1 to wound. That's right, the Ministorum Priest does that, but can't join Sacresants. That would be about the only difference. Alright, we'll do the Ministorum Priest next. Because they can't join that many units. They can join Arco-flagellants, then Battle Sisters, Dominions, Sanctifiers. They're a little bit close combat. Novitiates, yeah, a little bit close combat, but not massively. You're not putting out any real damage. Unlike the Sacresants, they can do real damage in combat. Yeah, if they went back to a 9th edition style of, oh, we've got litanies and prayers, then what do we do with the priest? Do they also get litanies and prayers? This is the problem with the Dogmata. I don't think they needed to exist, because they're either fighting with the Ministorum Priest or they're fighting with the Palatine. So it's a character that doesn't really have a place. Unlike this priest. Let's go up there. I think the priest is going to be a B tier. They can help the Arco-flagellants. +1 to wound is nice. Your strength 5. Do we get a bonus to our strength in the Penitent Host? Yes, +1 attack and strength from Absolution in battle, one of the vows. So the Arco-flagellants can jump up to strength 6 and then have +1 to wound. Now you're wounding on 2s, if you weren't already wounding on 2s. No, the priest doesn't have a split datasheet. It's one datasheet, 2 different weapon options. And having the Eviscerator is nice, and we can go Super Saiyan once per game. When they added the jump pack Canoness, they were like, okay, once per game you get 3 bonus attacks and devastating wounds. We already have on the Ministorum Priest. Once per game, get 3 more strength and 3 more attacks. It's functionally the same. I think it's a pretty good character. You could have them by themselves if you're thinking, ooh, I've got Canoness has gone up by like 10 points. So I'll have a Ministorum Priest wandering around, and that'll be my wandering around character. Or you can have an even cheaper Diologus. 40 points, has an invulnerable save. Same invulnerable save as the priest. The priest can't join too many units. They may be something you only have in the Penitent Host. They can work in other detachments. The +1 to wound is good, but you need the right combat unit, and you can't go with Sacresants. If you join the Sanctifiers, then they get sustained hits, and of course they get the +1 to wound, their own unit ability, the character ability attaches to the unit, and then extra, you get sustained hits, but it's only in combat, and it's so that you can do it like the opposite way to how it's done with Imperial Agents, where the Sanctifiers with Imperial Agents have +1 to wound if a priest joins them, and that priest also gives them sustained hits. Alright, so I think they're B tier. They're fine. They're fine, they do a job, mainly in the Penitent Host, but they can work elsewhere. Retributers. Alright, we'll do these Retributers. Ooh, where are we going to put them? Let's put them there for the moment, just because there's a gap and it's looking nice like Tetris. So, like a balance patch ago, their ability changed so that they can reroll hit rolls and wound rolls of 1 all the time. And if you're avenging units, +1 to hit and wound. 2 balance patches ago, it was 1 or the other. That's pretty good. That makes them a decent unit if they were 105 points. They were that points level in the index, and they were very good value for that. When I played them, I tried to keep them safe. I had them come on from outflank strategic reserves and then shoot something, because I didn't want to pay extra for a Rhino transport. Then we're getting into like 200 points for 5 models, and I think of 200 points as like 10 Stern Guard, 10 Deathwatch Veterans, units like that, rather than 4 multi-melters in a Rhino. Multi-melters are definitely the way to go. Heavy bolters work okay, with all the bonuses like the rerolls to hit and wound and the +1 to hit and wound. That's pretty good, but the multi-melters are where you need to be. Coming on from reserve, they can kill like a thing. Yeah. And then they die, so you have to hope that the vehicle they killed was worth at least 120 points, and you didn't spend like stratagems and command points on them to make them better to kill that, and you also didn't deliberately throw away a unit just to make it so that the Retributors were +1 to hit and wound against them. So they're very fragile for 5 models at toughness 3. Yeah, they don't feel like 24 points worth per model. And once you add a Rhino, are you not better off just getting Paragon Warsuits? Would you not prefer Paragon Warsuits? Because they're essentially the same points. Yeah, we're on 195 points there. Paragon Warsuits are 210. 15 points more and you get 3 multi-melters, but you're always getting that +1 to hit and wound against enemy monsters and vehicles. And also, the Paragon Warsuits multi-melters always hit on a 3, whereas the Retributers multi-melters normally hit on a 4. There are several ways to get +1 to hit. If you're avenging a unit, if you stay still because they have the heavy keyword, if you're in the Hallowed Martyrs and you've managed to lose a model somehow, which could be by deliberately using an invulnerable save on the superior rather than using the armor save. Oh, I've been hit by like a lasgun. Ooh, 1 in 6 chance, otherwise I'm getting +1 to hit. But they're very fragile. They're not great in most detachments. They were very good in Bringers of Flame. You disembark them really, really close. Now they're within 6 inches. The stratagems do cost more, which is unfortunate, and this is 5 sisters who should be able to do the job without any command point help. But we want to be within 6 inches, then we can go up to strength 10 on the multi-melters. Then you can start getting rid of the enemy vehicles. If you want heavy bolters, having a Castigator or some Mortifiers is probably going to be better. Heavy bolters have been improved on the Retributers because of all these bonuses, the rerolls to hit, the +1 to hit and wound, but we have heavy bolters elsewhere, and they're not quite as expensive relative to what you get. 2 Mortifiers as separate units will last longer. A Castigator will last longer than 5 Retributers, and there's very little points difference between a Retributor and a Castigator. Retributors are 120 points, Castigators are 40 more points, and you get a massive cannon, and a hunter killer missile, and a Stormbolter. Damage 1 Stormbolter. Yeah, they're gonna be... I think it's maybe C tier. You can try them with Flamers if you really want. It's nice to have the reroll wound rolls of 1, and +1 to wound. But if we're doing that, let's have Dominions or Sanctifiers. That's cheaper and gives you a lot of Flamer weapons as well. So it really has to be multi-melters. Yeah, coming from reserves, you can't be within 9 inches, and the melter does want you to be within 9. Rapid ingress is an option, but then we're spending command points on a pretty expensive unit that should do the job anyway. If the enemy's a very combat-heavy army, you can be on a flank where they're not going to charge you, but you have line of sight to one of their vehicles, remain stationary, and then shoot the vehicle. The problem is, even Orc shooting can get rid of them. World Eater shooting is really annoyingly good, so you're not going to survive very well. I think they can creep up to C tier because their ability is pretty good. You need to have lost some Sisters units, and most people's plans, if you're taking Retributors, is to have some units you throw out first, like Immolator, half a Dominion squad, small units of Arco-flagellants, Penitent Engines, these all work fine, depends which attachment you're playing. And then you have the Retributors follow up behind, either just running building to building until they're ready to shoot, or travelling in a Rhino. Yeah, I think they're going to stay in C tier. Previously they were B tier, and previously they were in D tier. I think they've just dropped 1 level. I don't think as many people will be taking them in tournaments anymore. If you're thinking, oh, I need to drop something just to have the same army as before, but with 1 fewer unit, 1 Retributor squad is probably it. Yeah. Okay, yeah, we'll do Novitiates next. This is a unit that doesn't get taken as much as they probably should. I'll have a nice stack and put them in the A tier. So they infiltrate. They are our only infiltrating unit. We have scouts from the Dominions and the Sanctifiers, but we have infiltrate with these. That's a great way to just say, hey, here's a line of troops that you're not going to be able to push past in the first turn. You're going to stay kind of back there, and I'm going to come to you. And if you get the first turn, maybe you can very easily complete a secondary mission in the central objective. Although we have scout and although we have transports, objectives start like 7 inches from your deployment zone. So you can't normally walk from your deployment zone onto the objectives in the first turn, unless you can scout, unless you have a transport. And the Battle Sisters are not short of units that do that, but Novitiates can do it for like the one that's furthest away. If the objectives are in a diagonal pattern, one of the objectives is closer to your opponent, you could start the Novitiates there and be kind of annoying. The problem is then if the enemy gets the first turn, you just gifted them a unit and you didn't really stop them. So blocking them out, especially blocking out enemy infiltrators, is very useful. The Novitiates are also a very good unit to split with an Immolator. So half of them will be infiltrating, half of them can go with a Palatine. The Palatine likes to get the reroll to charge that you get from the Novitiate Sacred Banner, and you also get reroll hit rolls of 1 all the time. If the enemy's on an objective marker, you can reroll the hit rolls. So if you were against a particularly nasty opponent and you had your Palatine and you have lethal hits, reroll all the hit rolls just to try and get more 6s. So we got half of them with the Palatine in an Immolator who can make a mess of the enemy. And you have a Simulacrum, so you could generate some Miracle Dice and maybe complete some secondary missions in the first turn. And if 5 Sisters die, that's fine. That is a unit destroyed. That's where you get a Miracle Dice on death. And of course, if you didn't want to make this unit as Novitiates, it's a brilliant set to make all of the characters from. You have like a Mistress of Repentance, well, Repentia Superior. You got some models that can be Repentia. You could have 3 of them as an Arco-flagellant unit, as long as Arco-flagellants are able to be taken as unit of 3, which I expect they will be in 11th edition until the Battle Sisters Codex comes out in 11th edition. There's always a, ooh, I wonder what's going to happen. Is this going to survive till 11th edition? Yeah, I think it will. And then somewhere along the lines, they'll disappear. Tactical Squad still won't. People have been thinking, the Tactical Squad will finally leave the Space Marine Codex. And it still hasn't, and I still don't think it will. But yeah, from this kit, you can also have a Palatine, or a Canoness, or both. And there's a Dogmata, and there's a Hospitaller, and there's a Diologus. It's a great set to get for the characters. Okay. Yeah, I think they're an A-tier unit. Celestine. Yeah, we can do Celestine. Right, Celestine's ability to her unit is to heal them. So you probably want a big unit of whatever she's with. Seraphim work pretty well. Zephyrim, yeah, Zephyrim can work. Sustained hits with her Devastating Wound weapon are pretty good, because with Zephyrim you pick one or the other. It's sustained hits or lethal hits. And if they charged, you get both. There's nothing that bad about having lethal hits and Devastating Wounds, as you also have sustained hits. So any attack you lost that can't become a Devastating Wound because it became a lethal hit, at least you have a replacement one from the sustained hit, which also triggered on a 6. Yeah, so a unit of 10, pretty good. If it's a unit of 5, they're going to die pretty quickly, and there's not a lot left. You can take wounds on the 2 assistants, the Gemini, because when she cries, you either bring back a Gemini, or you bring back D3 other Seraphim or Zephyrim. You're probably still going to lose a lot of models as soon as they get hit by anything, because your Battle Sisters, they're just flying Battle Sisters. Having Celestine alone, that still works pretty well. That's really annoying. And if we're thinking characters attaching to units, now that the Canoness with Jump Pack exists, if you're going to attach a character to some Zephyrim, you're probably going to attach a Jump Pack Canoness, rather than St. Celestine. And actually, Celestine costs like twice what a Jump Pack Canoness does. So we have wound shenanigans. When you're flying alone with St. Celestine, not attached to a unit, she is not an attached unit, so you can't even use precision to attack Celestine herself. But also, because we're not an attached unit, you don't have to assign wounds to the bodyguard, because there is no bodyguard. The 2 Gemini are not capital B bodyguard models. There is an FAQ about this, where yes, you are allowed to allocate wounds to Celestine, and then she'll come back, and also as per the rules commentary, which is a whole document that people forget exists, when she comes back, she rejoins her 2 Gemini. So you might want to put the wounds on Celestine, and the reason you put the wounds on Celestine is not just her 2+ save and 4+ invulnerable save, which the Gemini also have. It's that whenever you attack Celestine, and as long as there's a Gemini alive, Celestine has a 4+ feel no pain. And that doesn't mean a Gemini flies in the way, it's like a protective aura of those 2. Magic bullets. Or if the enemy is using magic bullets, it stops the magic bullets. Yeah, so you can still be annoying with Celestine. There are other cheaper characters that can go alone, like the Daemonifuge. Then you just have an ablative Kaiganil. Or you can have a Jump Canoness going around alone, and now we have lots of enhancements that work on that Jump Canoness. So she can have a 2+ save and a 5+ feel no pain. You can make it so that whatever Miracle Dice it is, it auto passes. There's a lot of ways to keep her alive. Damage is always reduced to 1. So I think our Celestine, yeah, she's B tier. Maybe she had been A tier in the past, but now we have the Jump Canoness. Since I'm talking about the Jump Canoness, let's do a Jump Canoness. We're done about stating the example. That's something you put on a character that's going to get killed. I don't know if you want your Jump Pack Canoness to get killed right away. Unless you're going to fight on death with her, and then maybe also bring her back with Divine Intervention. Yeah, you could do that. You could do that. The Canoness. Say jump Canoness at least. Now, in my notes, did I call her? I called her a Canoness with jump pack in my notes. Okay. So she is cheaper than Celestine. I think she's like half the price of a Celestine. Because she is 75 points and Celestine is like 150. Yeah, she's half the price. And I was surprised that the jump pack Canoness didn't go up in points in the last balance patch, but she stayed the same. Really good in many different attachments. In the Hallowed Martyrs, she's a very good one to have Fight on Death, because then you're getting +1 to hit and wound when you fight on death, as per the detachment rule, as per the rules commentary on fighting on death. You've also got the option for additional attacks once per game with devastating wounds. The halberd's probably the best weapon at the moment, because they changed how it works with Zephyrim and Seraphim. You could have a hand flamer and a power sword if you're going to be in the Bringers of Flame, and attach her to a Seraphim unit and use one of the stratagems that is now 2 command points rather than 1 command point. Cleansing Flames, where you get devastating wounds on torrent weapons. Now you have 2, 4, 6, 8, 9 torrent weapons that are devastating wounds. It can melt small tanks, and is especially good against heavy infantry that doesn't have a lot of wounds. I'm trying to think of something that has like high toughness and not many wounds. Terminators, I suppose. Yeah, Terminators. Centurions, yeah, 2+ save, 4 wounds. It's always good to kill Centurions. Custodies generally. What else is the Canoness doing? Oh yes, Army of Faith. Cheaper stratagems in the Army of Faith that are defensive auras. 3-inch aura, and now it's free. Like, okay, half my army is -1 to be hit. And that lasts the whole phase, rather than just against one enemy unit activating, unlike the Bringers of Flame Shield of Aversion, which is our Armor of Contempt, where it's until the enemy models have finished attacking, worsen the armor penetration by 1. Yeah, so Blinding Radiance, Army of Faith, all units within 3 inches of your jump pack unit, they are -1 to be hit for the phase. Zephyrim, we don't need to do the power weapon, have a power sword. We can get away with the halberd, which is probably the best. You can do a lot of damage with a jump pack Canoness. You can just fly around with a halberd hitting people. You can do that by yourself, as long as you have a protective enhancement, like the Mantle of Ophelia, like the Iron Surplus. You only have 3 wounds, so you're going to die pretty quickly. I think you're better having a small bodyguard of like 5 Zephyrim. Oh, and in the Penitent host, if you give them the Catechism of Divine Penitence, we went over this in Sisters Week, then you get the Penitent keyword, and you could join still Zephyrim or Repentia, and you can fly ahead of the Repentia to make their charge like 3 inches shorter. Because it's about an inch wide base. Well, it's a little bit more than an inch wide base, but basically an inch wide base, and you have to be within 2 inches of your friendly models to be within coherency, but that's like a 3-inch triangle sticking out of the front of the unit, so it's more likely that your Repentia will get the charge off. A tier, definitely A tier for the jump Canoness. Repentia, yeah, we'll do Repentia. You like your Repentia Abyssal, because you're a Penitent host player. I know you talk about it in the Discord all the time. If you did want to join the Discord and talk to Abyssal about Repentia and stuff, the link to the Discord is in the description. That's also where we've got other links, like, what have we got links-wise? Oh, we have me Ko-fi link. In me Ko-fi link, that's where you can give me tip money, so it's Christmas time coming up, jingle jangle. The hat is there to put money in, not just to put on my head, so you can give me money if you like. And there's links to discounted models, to various affiliates, ooh, and cheaper brushes if you want 15% off some brushes, if you want to buy some brushes last minute before Christmas, or with Christmas money, you can do that. Yeah, then right at the bottom is the Discord link, under that subscribe button link. Right, we're doing Repentia. Repentia cost some points that didn't go up, but also didn't go down. 75 points for 5, 160 for 10. That's not proportional. Celestine Sacresants are cheaper. Celestine Sacresants are also 2 damage, but they have a 3+ save and a 4+ invulnerable save, rather than a 6+ save, no, 7+ save, and a 6+ invulnerable save. With a little feel no pain, but that doesn't really account for much. I suppose you can argue that the Repentia have a 3+ save as long as the Superior is alive, but the Superior is also the model that gives you full rerolls to hit and full rerolls to wound. They do get rid of Space Marines, but Sacresants with damage 2, AP -1, you can usually boost that to AP -2, at least if you're playing Champions of Faith, which is the main place to put Celestine Sacresants. I don't know, do we struggle much killing Space Marines? A little bit. The Repentia are mostly used in the Penitent host. They're okay in the Hallowed Martyrs, and they're okay in the Champions of Faith. That's a decent option. In the Champions of Faith, we can have a few different stratagems. You make them righteous, they move an extra inch. That's an 8-inch move. Then we've got lethal hits or sustained hits. Well, we already have sustained hits, so you get lethal hits. You can't have it on a 5+ though. To the Heart of Heresy, so you improve the strength and the AP by 1. Then your strength 7, AP -3. That can matter. You have to be righteous to get both parts. Otherwise, you just get the increased strength, and that's not the part we want. We want the AP. It's much harder to get increased AP generally in this edition because of how the detachments are all separated up. If you can stack the Repentia right in the Penitent host, and you're getting your full rerolls to hit and full rerolls to wound, they're going to hit better than Sacresants. But you're going to get one go from them. Whereas the Sacresants can take some damage from Imperial Guard Mortars. Grizzled Company is out and fun, and I haven't played it yet, but I want to. Reroll to hit rolls of 1, and I think wound rolls of 1. You can do horrible things with the Repentia, but it's mainly in the Penitent host. So I think I'm going to stick them in C tier because this is a Penitent host place. The way to get rid of 6 Wraiths and a Technomancer is to use Precision and get rid of that Technomancer. I've done it with a Canoness, just use Epic Challenge, or with a Palatine, and you've got the Blade of St. Eleanor, and you put all the mortal wounds as precision attacks on that Technomancer, get him dead, and suddenly the Wraiths haven't got their Feel No Pain, then they can be broken much faster. I've tried them on foot with Miracle Dice charges, where you have a Miracle Dice for 6, and you just need to roll at least a 3 on the other dice. Otherwise, if it fails, you're kind of stuck high and dry and you're dead. So they really want a Rhino. Rhino or Strategic Reserves with Miracle Dice. I will accept Miracle Dice from Strategic Reserves. It depends what the enemy's got. If they've got lots of mortars, if they've got flamers, if you can charge from out of line of sight, yeah. That would be fine. But generally a Rhino is the best way to go. So I think they're a C tier unit because unlike, say, Arco-flagellants and the Priest, who can do a lot of good work outside the Penitent host, the Repentia are really, well, pretty much locked in to the Penitent host as their best place and generally only place you see them. I've not seen any tournament players being like, yeah, I'm playing Hallowed Martyrs, but I'll throw in some Repentia anyway. Could you put them in a Repressor? You're paying a lot more points than you need to. We'll do a Repressor now. Bring out the Repressor. There's our Repressor. The Repressor is 130 points, whereas like a Rhino is 75 points. That's 60 points cheaper, or 55 points cheaper. That's like an extra character. Repressors are fine. They have a Heavy Flamer and a Twin Heavy Flamer. You can get your unit back inside if the enemy's going to charge you, but Repentia are only mildly scared about being charged. They're more scared of any kind of bullets, because they're not wearing armor. Now, a Repressor is much better if you have Dominions. Then you can use the Dominions' Righteous Awareness ability. Enemy moves within 9 inches. You can reactive move D6. And if you can end that normal move, because it is a normal move, you can end that entirely within 3 inches of the transport. You can embark in that transport. Repressor's Emergency Combat Embarkation is another way that the enemy might be able to get around it if they're going to make a 9-inch charge, or if they were to disembark from a transport. Because disembarking from a transport isn't a normal move, but it counts as a normal move. It's one of these awkward setup moves that really needs to have its own terminology in this edition and the next. Because it's not a normal move, so we can't reactive move against it. So the enemy could set up like 6 inches away and then be about to charge. The Emergency Combat Embarkation special rule of the Repressor means you could get back inside when you're declared as the charge target. And then the enemy has to go somewhere else. Can you even take a Repressor as its legends, or are you talking about casual? I mean, I'm talking generally. I think, although the tournament scene has taken off quite a lot this edition, I'm seeing a lot of tournaments that are like, yeah, you can have legends. I'm looking at one for January that's like, yeah, we allow legends units. And hopefully people will have read the tournament pack and actually realize that. The amount of times I've gone to tournaments and people have been like, oh yeah, it's a tournament and tournament rules. Every tournament has its own tournament pack that they make that you have to follow. If it says legends are allowed in there, then they're allowed in there. You got to check it. So even tournaments, just maybe not the World Tournament Grand Extreme Tournament of Atlantica would say no Legends units. But most other places it's fine. It can be super group dependent if Legends are allowed. They should be allowed in anything other than tournament. Well, the rules are, and I've got at least 2 videos on this, the rules are that they're allowed anywhere except where tournaments have banned them. So it's only where the places say not allowed. Casually, I've never seen it be a problem. You turn up, you have the army, it's like, it's there. It's in the list, no one's going to care. It's slightly different to every other unit, and that's about it. There's nothing super powerful in Legends that everyone's going, oh, we absolutely must take this Legend unit. The Repressor is rather expensive what it does. It's 130 points compared to the 75 of the Rhino, or the 115 of the Immolator. So generally you will want an Immolator instead. It's a decent transport. You can have 6 Sisters shoot outside. It has firing deck 6. And it tends to work pretty well with Flamers. So Dominions with Flamers, that's fine. Oh, we have a good place for our Retributers, whether with Heavy Flamers or more likely Multi-Melters. That can be a powerful box moving around. Whereas in a Rhino, you've got firing deck 2. So it's a much better firing deck. You're certainly paying for it. And in terms of stats, it's toughness 10 and 12 wounds, and Immolator is toughness 10, 11 wounds. There's not really an important difference there. Oh yeah, and when the Repressor's damaged, it's -1 to its hits, which will affect the firing deck weapons, but it doesn't affect its own Heavy Flamer and Twin Heavy Flamer because they auto-hit. Sanctifiers could work. Flamer box of Sanctifiers. Dominions, then you can scout with it. And you could also have a Preacher there, because they gain the scout rule if they join Dominions, as does anyone who joins Dominions in a transport. You can have a box of fire. But I think the Immolator is more valuable because it splits units, and the Rhino is much cheaper if you just want a protective transport for, say, Repentia. I think it's a unit that should come back into availability for Imperial Agents. Then the Arbites can go inside, because it is also a vehicle used by them. That's my thoughts. So I think it's a good one for Bringers of Flame if you're going to have a box of fire. Yeah, you can use Cleansing Flames to have devastating wounds on all the turret weapons on that tank. It'll be 2 command points, but you'll get a Twin Heavy Flamer, a Heavy Flamer. Twin Heavy Flamer is 1d6, but twin-linked, important for devastating wounds. And then we've got 4, 5, 6 other Flamers. You could do that, so that's why I'm thinking it's a good one for Bringers of Flame, which is a transport-focused attachment. Otherwise, I think you want to have that Immolator. Better melee with the Prow Blade. Oh yeah, it's strength 7. Hitting on a 4+. Well, I'm converted. Okay, I'll do Crusaders since we're talking about Legends units. Then sure, I'll switch to the Seraphim. Crusaders, right. This was a unit that was super popular in the Index, and they are in the Adepta Sororitas faction pack as well. They got better when they went to the Legend status and joined the faction pack. So they have 2 wounds. That is better than a Sacresant. And they have a way better profile in their Index, as I'm pretty sure their power swords are also damaged too. So they can stab Space Marines. So they are cheaper than one character with 4 wounds. And it's 40 points for 2 models with 2 wounds. You can't be taken out by a single las cannon. They have a decent invulnerable save, decent armor. They're the cheapest bodyguard you can have for the Triumph of St Katherine, because the Triumph of St Katherine can join Battle Sisters, and the Crusaders can be attached to any unit that can join the Battle Sister squad. So you can have just 2 models along with the Triumph, and then when they get hit by las cannon shots, rather than taking it on the many wounds of the Triumph, you take it on a Crusader, who has an invulnerable save. They're good for just sitting on the home objective and not really doing anything extra beyond that. The enemy will then struggle to get to them, and if they do, they're mildly inconvenient to take out. It's like 2 Space Marines worth. So yeah, they're going in A tier. Okay, next character. We said Seraphim. We'll do Seraphim. Ah, the Seraphim. Right, I think these are still an A tier unit. Whee, up they go. They fly really well. In Bringers of Flame, they can bring the flame with all their hand flamers, even though it costs 2 command points now. That's still pretty good. You maybe don't want to do that and focus on the transports now, since the Bringers of Flame, once it was brought down with all of the stratagem changes and also the detachment rule changes, you have to bring transports to make it work, but you will make it work with transports, usually immolators. Their ability is move after shooting, which makes them very fast. You can get onto an objective or jump one side of a wall, shoot the enemy, jump the other side of the wall, and be fine. Then you're doing hit and run. These are the original hit and run unit. They're pretty speedy objective takers. Just get to a place, sit on an objective. It's 5 sisters, so they're also pretty good for completing secondary missions. You can cheekily take the objective of the enemy. You, like their enemy's home objective, you drop down near to them within 9 inches, you shoot. If you're able to clear the enemy from the objective, assuming you were like 9 inches away, then you move 6 inches. That can be enough sometimes to get you onto the objective. If they're like on the front of the objective, you deep strike behind them, shoot them, move 6 inches, you're now on the objective and they're not. Maybe because they're dead. And you don't need to risk a charge. That just happens. Good to do deep striking and secondary missions with a squad of 5. As jump troops, that has been the role in like every army wants to do that. Just have a squad of 5 that drops down, like Raptors, assault squads with jump packs. They arrive, they do a secondary mission, great. Because you don't want to be spending 190 points on some Terminators doing that. They're good to drop down with hand flamers. Or you can have them move up the board and counterattack with their hand flamers or with Inferno pistols. Jump 12 inches. Are you within 6 inches now? Great, use Inferno pistols. I like using Inferno pistols. They do a lot of damage. Then we can get through Space Marines and we can get through like Custodes. They compare pretty well with other units we would use to take objectives, yeah. They're generally better than quite a few other things. And of course, in the Army of Faith, this is where they extra special shine, because then you can have lots of stratagems that come off them. Like, ooh, here's a whole aura of -1 to be hit. And other things, what else we got? There they can leave the board and come back on somewhere else. So after they've dropped down into a back corner, complete the secondary mission at the end of your opponent's turn, you lift them up, and then somewhere else they will arrive on the board to do an action in a table quarter or be in a table quarter just to get you some more points, or kill an enemy unit. If I'm thinking between like, ooh, 1 victory point from a secondary mission or killing an enemy unit, kill the enemy unit. Think about scoring victory points mainly on the primary mission. If you can do the primary mission and also sometimes the secondary mission, you'll be fine. The secondary mission is there if you're like struggling to keep up with primary. Then at least if you can do secondaries rather well, you might be able to outscore your opponent, but primary missions is usually where it's at. They're good at both. Blinding Radiance, Angelic Descent, those are the 2 stratagems I use on them in the Army of Faith. In the Bringers of Flame, it's the Cleansing Flames, and they don't get used that much in other detachments other than just to drop down and complete secondary missions. That's their job in the Penitent Host, and their job in Hallowed Martyrs. And that's what they do rather well. Their jump pack sisters, the Zephyrim. Hello, the Zephyrim. Now, the Zephyrim are different to how they're written in the Codex. A unit that can have lethal hits or sustained hits anytime they fight in combat, and if they charged, all the models in that unit get lethal hits and sustained hits. That includes characters that joined them. Previously, the rule was about power weapons, because the Zephyrim are armed with power weapons, so any models that joined the unit, like a jump pack Canoness with a halberd, you wouldn't get the sustained hits and the lethal hits on their halberd because that wasn't a power weapon. But if you equipped the Canoness with a power weapon and a hand flamer, then you could get the sustained hits and the lethal hits. And you also previously had to discard a miracle dice to use it. We don't need to do that now. You just get both. It's a better boost for Celestine and that jump Canoness. You have rerolls to charge because you have Sacred Banner. You can reroll advance rolls as well if you need to, but I don't think we have advance and charge anywhere. I think even in the Penitent Host, if you attached a Canoness that had the Catechism of Divine Penitence, Lash of Guilt, yeah, you have to be a Penitent unit, and you're not a Penitent unit, you'll be able to charge because you have a Penitent model, and you share keywords, so you're a Penitent unit, so you can advance and charge. Okay, yeah, there's a way to advance and charge with the Zephyrim. Reroll the advance roll, reroll the charge roll. It's a weird way of doing it, but it could work. Zephyrim, 80 points, same as Seraphim. I generally prefer Seraphim. Otherwise, a squad of 5 is a very nice delivery method for a character. That's about the only reason to take them. I think, yeah, 5 Zephyrim with a jump pack Canoness. That's how I use them, and that's really it. Otherwise, if I want anything else jump pack related, I would go for the Seraphim. So Zephyrim, they're going to go in B tier because they're like Seraphim, but Seraphim have guns, decent guns, and guns are generally better than power swords because the enemy can't usually fight back if you shoot guns at them. Organ tank. We'll do the organ tank. The Exorcist. Oh, I'll just put it up there for now. Right, the Exorcist is very heavily pointed. It costs too many points. It's, what, 210 points? It sure is 210 points. The Triumph for St Katherine is 25 points more. An Exorcist is fine. An Armiger is much cheaper. But an Armiger is also cheaper than a Castigator, so that doesn't really compare well. The Exorcist special rules are nothing super special. Enemy takes a battle shock test in your shooting phase. It's usually not going to matter for anything, because battle shock tests are all recovered at the start of the enemy turn, which is when it really matters for scoring like primary missions. It's got a good strength 10 missile launcher, which is especially good at taking out any of the light vehicles like raiders, orc trucks, rhinos, anything that's medium difficulty, like from 5th edition 40k, if you think of what was good in 5th edition 40k, basilisks, wraith lords, dreadnoughts, carnifexes. Carnifexes are cheaper now. If you need to get rid of carnifexes, use the Exorcist. Screamer killers, the same thing. You can usually get rid of them in 1 activation, 2 activations at most, so I have 2 Exorcists in my Army of Faith. Because if one of them doesn't finish it, the second one will. Sometimes I'm able to use 1 Exorcist to indirect fire blow up a Rhino, and then the second Exorcist will get rid of the Death Guard Marines that were inside, or the Chaos Chosen, or blood nasty World Eater people. Indirect fire is pretty good, having 2 of them in the Army of Faith, and in the Army of Faith we have a lot more Miracle Dice, well, some more Miracle Dice than normal. You can use them to not guarantee a number of shots, but to guarantee like 2 successful wounds or damage. D6 damage, we can get high damage, which is just enough to break open enemy vehicles. We really struggle this edition to get rid of enemy vehicles. If everything stays the same next edition, we will continue into 11th edition to struggle against enemy vehicles. Although the missiles are good and indirect fire is good, yeah, forget the conflagration missiles. We don't struggle to kill things like cultists, Gene Stealer cult. We'll be fine with just using bullets. Use anything else. Or use Seraphim with hand flamers if you're trying to get to an enemy that you can't see. It's mainly in the Army of Faith, so I'm going to drop it 1 because I think most people are going to go for the Castigator instead of the Exorcist. Whereas at the start of the edition, when there was different special rules on the Castigator, people were not taking the Castigator over an Exorcist. Now they are. Maybe Games Workshop just didn't sell enough of them in 9th edition, and they wanted to sell lots of them now. Castigators still haven't gone up in points. They're still a very good choice. They're still something you see in a lot of tournament lists. Well, Hallowed Martyrs use them quite a bit, because as soon as they get damaged, then you get +1 to hit. And as a tank, you can survive taking a wound or 2, no problem. Let's do the Castigator next. Our Castigator... Oh, is it B tier? Is it A tier? It's a little bit more expensive than Knight Armigers, but Imperial Knight points are kind of low right now. And of course, Imperial Knights don't get any access to Miracle Dice, detachment rules, none of that. How much you use that on a Castigator, I don't know. I don't think I usually spend any command points on a Castigator. Even things like Divine Guidance to get 1 more AP, well, I'll fire the Castigator at the enemy. That will give the rest of my unit shooting that enemy unit an extra point of armor penetration. So I might do it. I might do it like Divine Guidance. If I can combo that with like an Immolator, ignore cover, get rid of the cover from the Immolator, then AP -1 on the Heavy Bolters, and Castigator Cannon is AP -2. Castigator Cannons are AP -1, aren't they? The Auto Cannons are, yeah. The Battle Cannon also is, but the Battle Cannon also has ignore cover anyway. No, I don't use different stratagems on the Castigator. I think it's fine. They don't have a real anti-tank cannon. We are looking at strength 10 or strength 9 with twin linked. The problem is the armor penetration. It's good for killing Terminators, especially good at killing heavy infantry. If you're trying to kill Space Marines, which at some point you'll end up fighting Chaos Space Marines, like World Eaters with loads of Berserkers, Death Guard with their toughness 6. Having a battle cannon is really useful. Or the autocannons, really useful. We just like the armor penetration. Otherwise you use an Immolator. And the heavy bolters that you get on the Castigator, the 3 heavy bolters, are very useful for getting rid of Space Marine types. 3+ armor saves will be failed enough eventually. 2+ armor saves I'm not so sure about. When I was playing my Imperial Agents, one of my Deathwatch teams, it was Kill Team Cassius, so there's one Terminator, took like 15 shots, saving on a 2+, only 1 failed, and that was 1 damage. The missiles, the melter shots, all coming from Tau, passed all of them on a 4+ invulnerable save. So you don't just have to roll enough and then it works. Whereas my other squad, which was a Proteus kill team, because you only have a Proteus kill team in Imperial Agents now, they don't exist in Space Marine Deathwatch. 3 shots from breaches. Oh yeah, wounding on 3s. Yeah, that's all of them. Great, I'll take 3 saves. It's -1. Oh, that's a 1, a 1, and a 2. Yeah, he dies instantly. Ooh, that's awkward. Never mind. It's going to be A tier. You see them quite a lot in lists, including tournament lists. They're taken casually, they're taken competitively. 1 or 2 is probably as many as you need. I don't think I've ever seen 3 Castigators. Usually you want to diversify your vehicle pool, especially with Immolators, sometimes with Exorcists. It can be a good combo to have the Immolator shoot a unit, then ignores cover for the Castigator, whose AP -1 will now hurt the enemy, and then when the Exorcist fires, there's an extra point of armor penetration, and ignore cover, so you only have the hitting on a 4+ from indirect fire as your only problem. Yeah, it's a good anti-marine fighter. And at a pinch, it can fight vehicles, but AP -1 is difficult. You're more likely going to want the Exorcist for that, or you'll want something like lots of multi-melters from the Retributers. If only they were not so expensive now. Ooh, yeah, we'll do the Hospitaller. Hospitaller has gone up in points. They're now 60 points instead of 50. That is probably fair. Yeah, I think that's fine. We can totally cope with that. It's a 10-point increase, a very deserved 10-point increase. I think they're still justified in being taken. Yes, especially with your Sacresants. Sometimes other units, if you're playing 1,000-point games, they're really good for bringing back models, for healing models, for just keeping a Battle Sister squad alive and being an irritation for the enemy, who may struggle to have something that can kill lots of Battle Sisters really quickly. They now cost like slightly more than the points of like half a Battle Sister squad, and you can get like 50% healing. You've got a 5+ feel no pain, and you're bringing back models. Or you go with the Sacresant and you're throwing a lot of points after a unit that's costing a lot of points. I think they're still a very good choice, so we'll move them up to A tier. That A tier is getting pretty stacked. Let's have something that goes in D tier. Yay! It's our Sanctum! It's the Battle Sanctum that we had introduced in 8th edition and hasn't really done anything. It's a building. Buildings are terrible in this edition. You can deploy them in your deployment zone and they can get in the way for the enemy. Well, that's the full extent of them, because it is a unit rather than terrain, so the enemy can't just climb over it. They can charge it if they really wanted to, but that might be giving them more movement than you want. It lets you do an additional act of faith. That's a special ability. If you're within 1 inch of it, you can do an additional act of faith per turn. Or you could play the Army of Faith, and you get that everywhere, on all your units. Ooh, you get the benefit of cover. Unless you're playing on a table where it's going to be an open field. Even then, I don't think it's worth 170 points. Just take another distraction Castigator. Something else for the enemy to shoot at on the way. And you'll be fine. Yeah, I used it a couple of times in like 8th or 9th edition. Didn't really do anything. If it was free, then it'd be fine. But yeah, it has rules. It has rules. And a points value. Retributers in a Battle Sanctum combo. You can still shoot the Retributers though. They're not immune to attacks. It's just expensive and it's there. We'll do Aveline. Alright, we've got Sister Superior Aveline. Celestine Sacresant Superior Aveline. Maybe it's meant to be pronounced Aveline, but I doubt it. I doubt it. She's very, very cheap. 45 points. Okay, she's down there with the cheapest characters. And she has Lone Operative. So if you want someone to go to an objective and not be able to be shot, because you can't shoot Lone Operatives within 12 inches, well done, you're fine, you're good and fine. Oh yeah, you can use her as a stand-in for a Hospitaller. Same base size, until Games Workshop changes the base size of the new Hospitaller model in 11th edition. I am assuming there will be a new Hospitaller model in 11th edition, and it won't be on a diorama base, and it'll be on a 32mm base or 40mm base, so we'll probably get a Hospitaller on that size again. On that size, not again, because the previous one was on a 25mm base and was part of a command squad. I've never used the Demon Breaker ability to have reroll hits and wounds against demons, because you don't want to really put her into attacks on demons. She's not fighting. That's not her job. She's just a cool character who sits in a place and is mildly inconvenient to get rid of. You can't give her enhancements because she's an epic hero, so there's no Mantle of Ophelia or anything like that. Once per battle she can fight a bit better. There's once again our +3 attacks, but with devastating wounds like a jump pack Canoness. I don't think it's that special. I have 7 attack, strength 5, AP -2, 2 damage. She can kill maybe 5 Chaos Marines. If they're demons, maybe. You'd be wounding like Possessed that are demons on a 5 because Possessed are toughness 6. Obliterators are like toughness 7, they're also demons. Demon Engines are also tougher. You'd need that reroll to wound. Nah, she's not really one for combat. But as a just sit on an objective, just hold the objective, you don't need to do anything else. Your job is secondary missions. That's great. Ooh, she once killed a single 8-bound. Awesome! That's probably her points worth. She's pretty. It's a nice model if you can get it. It's very expensive. It's a nice one to proxy as well. It's not difficult to have a Celestine Superior with a hand flamer and a shield, and you use a sword from, I don't know, a Zephyrim, the Battle Sister Squad, wherever you're not using a power sword, and you can make your own. So that's slightly cheaper than Death Cult Assassins. And now that Canonesses have gone up in points, even in the Hallowed Martyrs, in fact especially in the Hallowed Martyrs, take her if you're in a fun place that allows fun, rather than this isn't a game between people, this is a competition between opponents. But if you're in a normal place, playing normal 40k, yeah, you can use her alone and then resurrect her in the Hallowed Martyrs. So let's do the Death Cult Assassins, which are the other lone operatives. Woo, where are we going to put them? The thing about the Death Cult Assassins is they have lone operative, so their job is to stand in the open and then they can't be shot. They also have Infiltrate. They're a very cheap Infiltrate unit. Yeah, they're sort of cheaper than 5 Novitiates, because you can only have 5 Novitiates if you split them with an Immolator, which means buying an Immolator. You do get an Immolator for that cost, but the Death Cult Assassins are pretty cheap. Their job is, in theory, not actually, to be assassins. Doubt you'll be able to do much with that. You may be able to kill a Kroot, like a Kroot character. You've got damage 1 power blades though. Precision is not going to kill like a Technomancer. Even with rerolls, no, I don't think it's going to happen. But 55 points for 2 models that can run around pretty quickly because they move 7 inches. They can infiltrate. They've got lone operative. That's their job. They're probably going to end up in B tier just because Aveline is cheaper and the Crusaders that do a similar job to them are also a little bit cheaper. But the Death Cult Assassin's save is worse, so if anything drops down and fires some bolt pistols at them, well, we have a 5+ save, and then we're gone. Okay, our Mortifier. Slide them up. I'll put them in C tier for the moment. They're probably not going to stay in C tier. Probably. They're a really cheap and pretty tough objective holder. It's one model with toughness 6 and a 3+ save. We are going to give them the Anchorite Sarcophagus that gives them a 3+ save. I can't think of any reason not to do that. Oh, we lose 1 point of movement. We'll be fine. You have a Feel No Pain of 5+ as well, and the usual 6+ invulnerable save. You have Fight on Death on a 2+, so if the enemy wants to charge you, you can do some damage with your Twin Penitent Buzzblades. I very much recommend the Twin Penitent Buzzblades. As we've said for a lot of other things, if you've got like the Penitent Flails, which is anti-infantry, we don't struggle with anti-infantry. We've got Hand Flamers, we've got Bolters to kill off the enemy infantry. If we have the option of something that might be able to hurt tanks, pick that. And the Penitent Buzzblades are Strength 10, AP -3. So yeah, you can do it. And Twin Linked if you have 2 of them, which you should, so you reroll the wound rolls, you're more likely to hurt tanks. Damage 2 isn't great, but it'll do something. They're pretty good against like Orc Knobs. That can work. That will just blend like 3 Orc Knobs. Mega Knobs as well. You can get through Mega Knobs pretty well. Yes, this is also someone you can put 2 Heavy Bolters on. So now you can fight off heavy infantry like Space Marines. Chaos Space Marines. So the Mortifiers have a role in just be one of the first units to go out and stand on an objective, do an action if you have a secondary mission related to that action, otherwise do the secondary mission. Hiding them is better than firing 2 Heavy Bolters. I will tell you this from personal experience. If you're like, oh, I can maybe get like a couple of Marines. Maybe you do. But you can be shot at then, and you'll die pretty quickly. My opponents consistently do just enough to get rid of those 5 wounds. So have them hidden if you can. They're fine. They're like a middling, cheapish unit. You don't expect too much from them. You shouldn't expect too much from them. They're 70 points for 1. But they're very nice. They're difficult to get rid of. They're annoying. They have a nice job in sitting on objectives and occasionally stabbing people. And it's not just in the Penitent Host. So I'm not going to put them in C tier as just Penitent Host. I think I prefer Mortifiers to Penitent Engines. They hit on a 3+. Mortifiers hit on a 3+. The Penitent Engines hit on a 4+ in combat. And the hitting on a 3+ also works with the Heavy Bolters. Whereas the Penitent Engine can't have Heavy Bolters. Mortifiers are also slightly cheaper. I'm not slandering the Penitent Engines. I'm just saying they're a little bit better. They're a good one for Hallowed Martyrs, Suffering and Sacrifice, Heroically Intervene, and then if the enemy kills you, because you don't get to fight first when you Heroically Intervene, you're probably going to fight on death. So far I keep rolling that 2+ so that they fight on death. And I see no reason why I won't keep rolling 2+s all of the time. Yeah, okay, I'll do it. I'll put them in A tier if I've got the Penitent Host Enjoyer's interest. There we go. They're in A tier. So the Penitent Engines, I think, are going to be in B tier. They do many of the same things as the Mortifiers. They do die quite quickly, a bit quicker than the Mortifiers, because they haven't got that 3+ save. It's a 4+ save, and it's still 5 wounds, toughness 6. It's a pretty light vehicle. 8-inch move, can advance and charge, so they can run into enemy like infiltrators. If you've got something like the Tau infiltratey people, stealth suits. Yeah, if you've got the stealth suits, that works. That works alright. They can get rid of some of them. Unfortunately, not all of them, because you only have 4 attacks, but damage 2. You could also cut apart a few Pure Strain Gene Stealers. Units like this. Ooh, no, I was going to say the Zangor faction. The Thousand Suns faction. They're robots. I'm pretty sure that their robots have infiltrate. The idea is they're like statues, and you don't know that they're statues that can fight until they start fighting. Sakatar robots. Yes, they have infiltrate. 4 wounds, toughness 6. Oh, we're ripe for the cutting apart with these Buzzblades. I haven't fought Sakatar robots yet. It might happen at some point. What else have we got? Oh yeah, when we die, we get a Miracle Dice, so they're a good unit to throw in first. That's sort of why we throw them in first. And whatever kills them, if you're using Retributers, now you have something that you'll get +1 to hit and wound against. They also have like special flamers, this Penitent Engine, because it's 2d6 and also twin linked. It's like 4 flamers in 1. It can be scary. People will shoot at them. Okay, yeah, Penitent Engines are in B tier. Alright, we'll do Paragon Warsuits. Ooh, do I put these straight up in A tier? I'll put them in B tier for the moment. Morvenn Vahl went up in points, but we'll look at Morvenn Vahl's points when we do Morvenn Vahl. It's kind of tied to the Paragon Warsuits though. Comparing the points for like 3 Paragon Warsuits compared to 4 Retributers, maybe you just want the 3 Paragon Warsuits now. But toughness 7 means they're wounded very similar to Terminators. They're expensive Terminators, but we get missiles and we get multi-melters. In the Champions of Faith, a unit not with Vahl can work, otherwise in every other detachment, you only see Paragon Warsuits with Morvenn Vahl, then you got the rerolls to hit and the rerolls to wound. The +1 to hit and wound that they have baked into their datasheet is good, so that's telling you, you want to use this unit to hunt vehicles, we need to hunt vehicles, having Paragon Warsuits is very important to get rid of enemy vehicles. You got to keep them safe until they're going to attack, not in like strategic reserves, just move up behind buildings. The problem then is it's saying to your opponent, hey, you know how I'm a vehicle? I'm going to go this way around the ruin and then I'm going to shoot the thing that's in front of me. Tournament lists are slowly decreasing the amount of times they're taking Vahl. I'm not taking Vahl and the Paragon Warsuits. I should really stop thinking of them together, even though they really are just together. I've not seen tournament lists with 2 squads of Paragon Warsuits, even though in Champions of Faith I'll use 2 Paragon Warsuit squads, but now I'm only taking Paragon Warsuits in the Champions of Faith. So they're fine, they're good. I think we'll put them in B tier for now. They are very cool in Champions of Faith. You can get away with 2 units, because you're making 3 of your units righteous, it doesn't cost Miracle Dice anymore. 2 units of Paragon Warsuits, one of them being Vahl's unit, is a great option when it comes to the turn we're going to do damage and destroy things. Alright, they're going in B tier. I think there's no reason not to do Vahl next. Morvenn Vahl. I think saying it's Morvenn time has kind of gone out of fashion for now. You don't need to take her even in tournament lists, and I think Morvenn Vahl has become much more of a casual player's unit, because she's such a, okay, I have this one unit that's super powerful and can take some damage. Potentially take some damage and not be instantly destroyed. So you can be a little bit oops with them. This is why, in theory, Space Marines make such a good army, as like a first army. Because if you put a Space Marine in the open, the 3+ save might keep them alive against quite a few things. You can get more Miracle Dice with Morvenn Vahl, but you're really going for that, hey, I'm rerolling hit rolls and wound rolls, which is what you want for the Paragon Warsuits, so that they're hitting on 3+ with rerolls, wounding on 3+, 4+. They've got that ability, the +1 to hit and wound against enemy monsters and vehicles. So say 4+ with rerolls. Now you have a unit that can take out things like a Riptide. But then there's that invulnerable save. I'm pretty sure Riptides have an invulnerable save. I wouldn't have Morvenn Vahl alone. I don't think anyone takes Morvenn Vahl alone. I don't think you're getting anything good out of spending 185 points for the one model. You're much better taking a tank if you want a thing that's by itself and kind of big and kind of tough. Is Vahl no more mandatory? It depends who you ask. More and more tournament people are not taking Morvenn Vahl. That may have changed back now because we've just had the increased points on the Sacresant and Hospitallers, and if people are not taking those units with Dominions backed up by Retributers, then you're more likely going to take Vahl again. Yeah, she doesn't get the rerolls when she's alone, so there's not a lot of point taking her, and then it's not a multi-melter, it's her special heavy bolter. Fidelis? Yeah, Fidelis, the strength 6 heavy bolter. Yeah, I think we're just going to put her in B tier, because her points went up as well. Went up 15 points. Yep, for a lot of casual players, you take Morvenn Vahl because she's easy to use and does damage. If you're more tournament-minded, you have a lot of other units that don't cost as many points that can do as much damage when fielded correctly. You could have in reserves, then she doesn't get blown up. Yeah? Then come on, blow something up. Okay, yeah, that can work. That can work. And then just keep moving up that flank. Depends who you're playing. If you're playing someone who's going to be scared of them, then I would have them on the table because they'll go, I'm not going towards that area of the board. So we'll do the Imagifier. I'll just pop you there for the moment. Now, the Imagifier in the September balance patch allegedly got a 10 points point drop, but they didn't. It didn't actually happen. It didn't appear on the app, and when we've got the December points, they're still listed as 65 points. More expensive than a Hospitaller. They give you an aura of better Miracle Dice from units that die. Okay, fine, so you want to have them in the middle of the action. And they give a unit a 2+ save, which is rather cool if you're going to be hit by lots of AP0 attacks. So in theory, you can have a Battle Sister squad walk up to a massive Imperial Guard, take a load of lasgun shots and save them all on a 2+ save. You also get a 4+ invulnerable save for things like the melter guns, the plasma guns that they'll be fielding. You're pretty good having the Hallowed Martyrs set an example because it's a character that's going to be right in the middle of the enemy that's going to die. Despite it being a protective aura character, it's not one you put with Sacresants because they already have the 4+ invulnerable save. All you're gaining is the 2+ save, and of course the -1 to wound. They're not awful, but you can't resurrect models the way the Hospitaller can. The Hospitaller is just better. In Bringers of Flame, you have the Shield of Aversion stratagem, so if you get hit by AP -1 attacks, you go back to AP 0, you're still saving on a 2+ save. I don't think there's any way to say that they're anything other than B tier. Like, it's okay to take one. They work pretty well. Tarfa get you better miracle dice, which is something you want if you haven't got any abilities to reroll miracle dice or just spam loads of miracle dice like in the Army of Faith, but it's only the miracle dice you get on death. And if you want a protective character, even in Battle Sisters, I think the Hospitaller is going to be better. Running a Imagifier with a Battle Sister squad built as Celestians. Yeah, kind of the Sisters equivalent of a command squad. In 2nd edition, this is our banner bearer, so they were super important for the command squad. Later on, Codex Witch Hunters, you could have your banner there as part of the command squad, which were Celestians. No, you haven't missed the Sanctifiers. So I can do the Sanctifiers now. Sanctifiers went up in points. The Sanctifiers, only this version of the Sanctifiers, the Imperial Agents version, is still 100 points for 9 models. We are paying 110 points. Their job is very similar to the Dominions. They have Scout. Part of the job of the Sanctifiers is to have lots of flamers. They're pretty good with a lot of flamers. So you're scouting a bit, you've got a plasma gun, you've got Holy Fire ×2, you've got a lot of hand flamers. They're not as good as the hand flamers on the Seraphim because you haven't got the speed to get them where you want them to. You're just hoping that there's an enemy in front of you, like termagants, who are not going to be happy being flamed. Something that's toughness 3 that happened to come your way. You can attach a Ministorum Priest to them, then that slightly makes them a combat unit. This is the problem with the kill teams from the game Kill Team being ported over. You have like half combat, half shooting. It's the same with the Aquila kill team that the Deathwatch have. Half shooting, half combat. You're not doing either particularly well, and you end up with a bit of a both unit. Specialized units are going to be better. But the Sanctifiers can specialize in being lots of fire. What do I think of them versus Novitiates? Yeah, if we're just blocking the enemy, Novitiates are going to be better. You got 2 flamers in a Novitiate unit. It's not the same number of flamers. I think it's better to compare them to Dominions rather than to Novitiates, because we're scouting rather than infiltrating. They die faster than Novitiates. No, they die faster than Dominions because we have a 5+ invulnerable save and that's it. So even the Novitiates have their 4+ armor save. You have a medic within the unit so you can bring back models if any of them are killed. However, I think almost all of the times I've played them, I think every time I've played them, they just get wiped out in one go. You get a Simulacrum so you can try and generate miracle dice. Yeah, it's fine. I think they're going to be a B tier unit. They work okay. They're kind of flamey. They're a little bit scouty. I don't think they're going to be as good as Dominions. If you want to have a more ecclesiarchy theme, then you can have Novitiates and count them as like Fraternus Militia of some sort. Have Arco-flagellants. Have these guys, the Sanctifiers, and have it led by priests. And it's probably going to be a pretty small army. But yeah, you've got a very ecclesiarchy-themed army. Using Empire Flagellants and running them as Arco-flagellants is also something you can do, and maybe is something I have done. They're also way cheaper. You get about 30 of them in the box. Yeah, you get like 30 flagellants in the flagellant box. And it's priced as only slightly higher than 10 Arco-flagellants. So I recommend the Old World Empire Flagellants. You don't get the circle bases that you did get when they were sold as part of Age of Sigmar, so Sanctifiers are a B tier. Hey, we're saying Arco-flagellants. We'll do Arco-flagellants. I'll put them there for the moment. Arco-flagellants are a very cheap unit of 3, because you can currently have them in units of 3. So if you've got no Crusaders, no Death Cult Assassins, no Aveline, this is the unit you just sit on an objective. It could be running out to go to one of the mid-board objectives at the start of the game. They're going to get shot. They'll give you a miracle dice. Or you can have them stay on the home objective, out of line of sight, and it's a unit that's there for when you need to do something in your deployment zone. Or defend your home objective. 2 secondary missions that need you to hold the home objective. One is extend battle lines, one is defend stronghold. So having a unit there is really useful. A unit of 10 is very effective for taking out big hordes. So we're talking like 20 Hormigants, 25 Imperial Guard, a whole platoon of them in one go can be torn apart by the Extremist trigger word on the Arco-flagellants. I always use that Extremist trigger word. 6 attacks per model at strength 5 is horrifying. Orc boys do not like that. You're hitting on 4s and then you'll be wounding on 4s. That's weight of attacks, and with sustained hits 1. Oh yeah, when you use the Extremist trigger word, we found out recently in my Fight on Death video, you can't use the Extremist trigger word if you're fighting on death, because this is only when the unit is selected to fight, and you don't go through the select unit to fight step when you're fighting on death. You do all the rest of the stuff, but not that one step. That's a page 32 step, which you skip to go to page 33 onwards. The hazardous test. If you fail the trigger word hazardous test, then you take 3 wounds, but you can use your feel no pain against that, so if you pass 2 of them, your model's going to survive because you got 2 wounds per model. If the meta shifts to high toughness things, like if Custodes come back in, if Imperial Knights come back in as the big thing that's there, that's not very kind to them because they're AP 0. Repentia will then do better than them. They'll cut into bigger targets. With AP -2, you can also do alright with hordes. Repentia usually kill as many horde models as they have attacks, because it's 2 attacks hitting on 4s, but with sustained hits, so that's like the equivalent of hitting on 3s, and you've got rerolls to hit. And then you're rerolling the wound rolls, so you can kill enemy hordes pretty well. You can have a priest with the Arco-flagellants more and more. That I'm thinking that was an index thing. That was really good when the Arco-flagellants were even better in the index. Now the +1 to wound, it's fine. It's fine. It's okay. I think that's a lot of points we can spend elsewhere. The Arco-flagellants have been cropping up in quite a few army lists in the Hallowed Martyrs. One of the stratagems, Righteous Vengeance. All rerolls to hit. So you get even more attacks. Now you can take out things that have a slightly better armor save, but we're still just going to hit that same point of like AP 0. Unless you're in the Champions of Faith, they can work okay in the Champions of Faith. Then we have To the Heart of Heresy. You can have 1 extra strength, strength 6, 1 extra AP. Now we're doing some damage. But they don't need a priest to do that. So I think Hallowed Martyrs, they work quite nasty. Army of Faith can give you 1 point of armor penetration with Divine Guidance. I've had them in the Army of Faith. More and more I'm like, I don't need this unit. The things we struggle with in Army of Faith are the same things we struggle with for any Sisters list. We need to take out vehicles and monsters, and if I'm not using Morvenn Vahl, replacing them with Arco-flagellants isn't going to cut it. So AP -1, but nothing else, it's okay. I'm not usually struggling to take out hordes with the Arco-flagellants. I don't need to spend stratagems on the Arco-flagellants to make them work. 3 lots of Arco-flagellants can be useful. Have an Imagifier following behind them, and when they get destroyed, you get the miracle dice from their death, and you can re-roll it from the Imagifier. Yeah, that's okay. That's okay. I wouldn't want just half a squad of Dominions with the Imagifier. I'd want like a Battle Sister squad, a full Battle Sister squad. So I'm really making use of that 2+ armor save as well. Otherwise, I'm spending 65 points to get 3 rerolls, which I might not need. Sometimes it does something. Sometimes I just roll badly on the reroll. Sometimes I roll well the first time, and I don't want to reroll a 5 into something else. So if that's something that worked for you, I'm glad. Keep trying out things. It can work really well if suddenly like, ooh, this is a good combo. Haven't thought of this before. Small units of Arco-flagellants work. Big units of Arco-flagellants work pretty well. Decent tar pit. Decent, yeah. They can be really annoying to get through as well. 2 wounds each. Feel no pain of 5+. They're only toughness 3. They will die pretty quickly to like las guns, bolt guns, weight of small arms. That will get rid of them. But anything that's damage 2, even if it's wounding them on a 3, we have the feel no pain to maybe survive one of those shots. With the 5+ invulnerable save enhancement in the Penitent Host, yeah, that can be annoying. There's not a lot of times where I think I need to just tie up this enemy unit. I prefer to kill my enemies or move on to an objective to outscore them. And that's where I have things like Battle Sisters will do that instead. Battle Sisters can also be difficult for the things that would be able to take out Arco-flagellants, may also struggle to take out Battle Sisters. Depends how many attacks you've got. It's 10 models to take down. Damage 1. There's rare things. Very rarely is there like a combat attack that's high AP but low damage. Power swords, if you had a unit with lots of power swords, maybe. But other than Deathwatch veterans, I can't think of other things. Oh, they'll be useful. They'll definitely be useful. Yeah, you can improve their Feel No Pain by 1. You can make them super tar pity in the Penitent host. I'll go with A. Rhino. Yeah, I'll do a Rhino. So the Rhino is very cheap. If you just want to get units to a place safely, the Rhino will almost always do it. It's the cheapest way to get them into combat without spending command points on like rapid ingress. Repentia go well in a Rhino, Sacresants go well in a Rhino, because they will just get smushed. Especially if you haven't got the Hospitaller anymore. And remember that now the Hospitaller is 60 points, a Rhino is 15 points more, which gives you speed as well as the protection. You won't get it well in combat, but if you're just going to jump out and hit a thing really hard with your hammers, you don't need that. You also get Firing Deck 2. So if you're transporting Dominions, Battle Sisters, Retributers, especially Retributers, don't put Retributers in Immolators, then you can have 2 of the big guns shoot out. So for the Dominions, that would be 2 Melter Guns. For the Battle Sisters, it's a Melter Gun and a Multi-Melter. And for the Retributers, it's 2 Multi-Melters. You can also carry more than 1 unit in a transport. You have a carrying capacity of 12. It's any Adepta Sororitas unit, and all the things in our codex have the Adepta Sororitas keyword. It's infantry only. You can't transport the Triumph. You can't transport jump pack units. Well, that's because the Rhino in the combat patrol doesn't mention the Triumph of St Katherine, because you can't have the Triumph of St Katherine in that combat patrol. Yeah, you could split a Dominion squad with an Immolator. Half the Dominion squad goes in the Immolator, the other half goes in the Rhino, and then you can also put a Retributor squad in the Rhino. Oh yeah, you could have the Hospitaller and Sacresants in a Rhino. It's a very expensive combo. That's like 250 points now. Yeah, you don't need to transport jump pack units in a transport. It's the very key part of the Bringers of Flame. If you can move up and you can advance and shoot, so that includes the Firing Deck in the Bringers of Flame, you have assault on everything. Even if you're not in the Bringers of Flame and you're transporting Dominions, because the Dominions Melter Guns have assault, you can advance the Rhino and still fire those 2 Melter Guns. As we have 6-inch special rule in the Bringers of Flame to get that +1 strength, it's a transport that you need to get closer, and we have a stratagem that allows you to advance and still disembark. You usually have to use vehicles to make that detachment work now. The Rhino is a Stormbolter, but it's only damage 1 compared to the damage 2 of a lot of other Stormbolters. It's a cheap unit, it doesn't die to small arms. You can use it to complete primary and secondary missions. If you haven't got, well, your Arco-flagellants, your Crusaders, your Assassins, use a Rhino. Its job is to move some people to a place. Usually that place is an objective. The objectives are the place where you do actions. And then the enemy then has to get rid of an empty Rhino. They don't like shooting empty Rhinos. They prefer to shoot full Rhinos to make your troops walk. I like shooting Rhinos with my Exorcist when they're full. You do get a hunter-killer missile, yeah. And auto-repair comes up sometimes. They're quite a good blocking unit. If you put Dominions inside, or Sanctifiers, so that they can scout, you can use them to block enemies that are going to charge the front of your line. Then a screen is a tank. The enemy is much less likely to be able to get rid of your tank, and then you just withdraw from combat. You fall back, but forwards. Move up. You were going to do that anyway. And if it's only taken a few wounds, then you've got the auto-repair. Use your Miracle Eyes for 2 on the Hunter-Killer Missile, yes! You will roll a 1 to hit at least 50% of the time. It's a great unit. Yeah, it's going in A tier. I wouldn't really tank shock with it. Because you got 9 dice. You might do 3 mortal wounds, yeah? Flying Pulpit. Flying Pulpit? Yeah? Okay. She is a very useful lady because she gives you command points. If you're in one of the detachments that heavily relies on command points, Army of Faith, Hallowed Martyrs, both very much reliant on using command points. That's also where you want the Canonesses, because if you can go, hey, this unit is just going to have free grenades. Do I mention grenades? Very good way of fighting enemy monsters, vehicles, high toughness things. Battle Sisters want to use grenade lots. So with our Junith, she's a named character, so she's epic hero, so you can only have one of her. You can spend a miracle dice to get a command point, but she has decent leadership, so it's generally worth just rolling the dice. Unless you're on turn like 4 or 5, where you're managing to drown in miracle dice because you've lost so many units, you've generated enough miracle dice from your simulacrums, all the Army of Faith things happen that give you lots of miracle dice. Then I would use the miracle dice just to get that extra command point to keep you going through the last couple of turns. She's an okay character in combat. She fights about the same as any Canoness. Having the heavy flamers, rather nice. Twin heavy flamer. Yep, it's a standard Ministorum heavy flamer, but there's twin linked, so you get to reroll the wound roll. I've tried her with a Dominion squad with all flamers, and it works okay. I've considered switching her Dominion squad now that the points have gone up on Dominions. The not thinking about it way to change my Army of Faith list is to drop the Mortifier and have a squad of 3 Arco-flagellants instead. When I get more into the more playing with them and thinking about it, because I've had one game with the Battle Sisters with the new points, to try out the units that went up in points. So I wasn't doing my Army of Faith list. Then I'll swap the Dominions for Battle Sisters, maybe still with Flamers. 1 heavy flamer, 1 twin heavy flamer, a regular flamer, and a hand flamer. That could be okay for Overwatch, but if I'm doing Army of Faith, there's a better place for Overwatch. And it's with the multi-melter, with the Diologus, where any miracle dice turns into a 6, so we're going to auto-hit. And with the Palatine in the squad, with lethal hits, you auto-wound as well. And with AP -4, you go through the enemy safe. And all you're doing there is spending 2 miracle dice to auto-hit twice, and then you just roll damage. Very useful for instantly killing a Carnifex. I've seen Junith operate alone. Just sit her on the home objective, same as you would with 3 Arco-flagellants or 2 Crusaders. Then her toughness 5 gets used. When she's with a bodyguard, you use the toughness 3 until all the bodyguard are dead, and then the enemy finishes their activation against toughness 3, and after that point, then you become toughness 5. I think that Junith is going to be in B tier. Yeah, I'll put her in B tier. This is because Canoness does a cheaper thing. They have like a guaranteed 1 command point, but they can only spend it on themselves. And you can only do that really with 1 Canoness, so if you wanted a second Canoness, maybe get Junith instead. Because the Canoness's ability, whether it's 1 Canoness on foot and 1 Canoness with a jump pack, their ability to make 1 stratagem, 1 command point cheaper, is only across the army per battle round. You can generate an extra command point with Junith, and in the Adepta Sororitas, I rarely think I'm ever going, oh, I can't do this secondary mission, I'm going to discard it. Almost all of the time I can do the secondary mission, in which case I've got my 1 extra command point from Junith. If you think the Hospitaller is too expensive now, Junith is 80 points, 20 more points than the Hospitaller. You could put her with Sacresants. You can't go into transport then, but if you're going on foot, your unit is now -1 to hit all the time, because that is one of Junith's abilities, and they're also -1 to be wounded all the time. Hospitaller is cheaper, gives them a 5+ feel no pain, and can resurrect models, so you're probably going to stick with the Hospitaller. Yeah, I think Junith is B tier. A lot of other units will do things similar to her, but cheaper. But she's good. I recommend taking her. That's why B tier. That's what B tier is. Alright, I see the Triumph being mentioned, so let's do the Triumph. Thankfully, the Triumph didn't go up in points, which makes a bit of a difference. We've never really gotten back to the amazing Codex level of the Triumph. That's when they were like, okay, you take the Triumph like all the time. It was part of why the Penitent host was so good when the Codex came out. Because that Triumph that gives you 2 extra inches of movement, and I think it's an extra inch when you charge, and an extra inch when you advance. That's great on a fast-moving, charging detachment, like the Penitent host. So I think you always want that Fiery Heart activated. The other one depends on what you're doing. Simulacrum of the Ebon Chalice, so units within 6 inches can do 2 acts of faith. Usually I pick the Petals of the Bloody Rose, extra armor penetration in combat. Oh, hello, those Arco-flagellants now have AP -1 in the Penitent host. It's the only way you can get extra armor penetration in that detachment. And then Castigators for shooting, but you're not really doing shooting in the Penitent host. So Petals of the Bloody Rose, which also works on itself. If you look up auras in the core rules, then it says you are in range of yourself. This was a problem that Games Workshop learned in Warhammer Fantasy many editions ago. Could you see your own unit? Like, can you cast a protective spell on yourself? Otherwise, you have your 90-degree arc in front of you, and the only thing you can usually see then is enemy units. The Triumph is rather expensive at 235 points. Ooh, new Ko-fi subscription. Thank you for subscribing to one of the tiers on Ko-fi. Again, if you got the link in the description, there are many Ko-fi tiers. There's like a one-off, give me some monies, which fills up that bar in the top left to get me through December, buys me presents, like Genestealer Occult models. They're in the Combat Patrol magazine right now. It's Aberrants. Gonna get some Aberrants. There's also a £2 just super support, and you also get super special access in Discord. Then there's like a £10 tier, which is the special one, and there's also a £20 where I'll help you out with army lists once a month. Many people are on that, once I renamed it to one-to-one support. So if you want to chat to me, it costs money, and I'll help you with stuff. The stuff that you in particular are having problems with, the stuff that the videos aren't currently covering. I don't know about the Triumph. Oh yes, you can get a Miracle Ice of a 6 right away. So in the Penitent Host especially, where you're going to use that Miracle Ice of a 6 on a charge roll, the Miracle Ice you get at the start of the battle round becomes a 6. So very necessary in the Penitent Host. Relics are good, and the Triumph can fight pretty well. It's damage 1, but it's 18 strength 5 attacks hitting on 2+. And with Petals of the Bloody Rose, those are AP -3 attacks. Yeah, that's pretty nasty. That's pretty nasty. Most of the time you don't need a bodyguard. Crusaders are a great bodyguard. If you've got half a Battle Sister squad from splitting them in an Immolator, that's also nice. Then when you're getting hit by like damage 3 attacks and damage D6 attack las cannons, D6 +1, you'll be okay. The enemy has to then hit you with like small arms and then heavy weaponry. And there's not a lot of units that do both. Most of the time they're split up into, this is the light shooting unit, this is the heavy shooting unit. That's just how 10th edition has gone. So what do you think? Is the Triumph a pretty good unit? Are we seeing the Triumph in lots of lists? They can make the Bringers of the Flame even faster, advance and shoot and go even further? Or are they C tier because this is a Penitent Host unit and you're almost always going to see them just in the Penitent Host and not really anywhere else? I only play them in the Penitent Host. Elsewhere, I'll be fine. Oh, it's very pretty. And what you can do is take all the models off and make them into character models. Especially like the Diologus and Imagifier. You got an amazing Palatine right at the front with the sword and the shield. Yeah, they can work really well as characters. And you don't need all 6 models on the Triumph for it to function. You could magnetize them. Have a separate base for them if you want to have them separate. Otherwise, they stay on the Triumph. If there's ever a way you can not buy Games Workshop character models, do that. So, we're sticking them in C tier. It's not too difficult to magnetize the Triumph models. It's like, you can put a hole in the base, stick a magnet in there. And also then you can do the thematic thing of taking off models as it takes damage, yeah. When you've got 18 wounds, every 3 wounds lost, you take off a little model. Let's do the regular Battle Sisters. This is your basic unit, 105 points for 10 Sisters. That's the cheapest way you're getting a model with a toughness 3 and 3+ save. They have a Simulacrum, they generate Miracle Dice. They can do some damage, especially in the Army of Faith with some nasty combos to knock out those Carnifexes and Hellbrutes and other things. Anything that's got 8 wounds will die. They are cheaper compared to other units, and when Dominions are 120 points now. So if you're thinking of Dominions, are you sure you want Dominions? Are you going to use that Scout? Are you going to use the extra Melter Shot? Because that's really all it is. Sort of. You've got 4 Melter Guns in a Dominion squad, or in a Battle Sister squad. You've got 1 Melter Gun and 2 Multi-Melter Shots. Those Multi-Melter Shots are on a 4+ rather than a 3+, and they don't have Assault. But that's one different weapon for 15 points. And although you don't have a reactive move, you get sticky objectives. Start on your home objective, keep moving forward, If the rest of your army can push the enemy back, you can sticky usually 3 objectives through the game. They're objective control 2. They are the only unit in the Adepta Sororitas that can have 2 characters in the unit. If you look at the Imagifier, the Hospitaller, the Diologus, it says on their unit card, this model can go in a battle sister squad with another character as long as that character is like a Canoness or a Palatine. It's only the battle sister squad, so you cannot have 2 characters in a Celestine Sacresant unit, for example. There's a battle line unit. The only battle line unit. So you get the battle line bonus that we get in all the different like card packs. Pry Nexus mission deck. In the 2025-2026 mission deck, the battle line bonus is that you can do an action and still shoot, or you can do an action and still advance. It's very good. If you're ever playing 1,000 points, take 2 battle sister squads. Slightly difficult to get rid of, especially at that points level, even more so if you give them a Hospitaller. But the amount of things that battle sister squads can do at 1,000 points, it's exceptional. They're so great. 60 battle sisters is not the ravings of an insane person. It works. It shouldn't work, but it works. You can split them with an Immolator, as you could with Dominions, and you probably get more out of the Immolator with Dominions, because then the Immolator will scout. And any characters you put with them, because that's a special rule of the Dominions. Any characters that join them can also scout as long as you are in a transport. You can have your 2 characters, so you can do the Army of Faith thing, as I mentioned. 10 Battle Sisters with a Multi-Melter, and you've got a Diologus, and you've got a Palatine. You fire Overwatch or just shoot normally. Spend 2 Miracle Dice, which you can do in the Army of Faith to do 2 Acts of Faith, each one on a shot from the Multi-Melter. And then they become 6s, so they auto-hit, they auto-wound because of the lethal hits of the Palatine, and AP-4 goes to most saves. Then you roll damage. If you wanted to just kill one thing, and it had 6 to 8 wounds, because within Melter range you get 2 more damage from Melt 2, use 1 Miracle Dice to auto-hit on a 6, which auto-wounds. Then the enemy has their save. If the enemy fails their save, sometimes it's an invulnerable save, then you use another Miracle Dice. It becomes a 6. It's every time the Diologus uses their ability. It's not once per phase or once per turn. It's every time you do an Act of Faith. Now that's a 6. So you've got a wound roll of a 6, plus 2 from Melter. Whatever you pointed at just took 8 wounds. Nasty for like Demon Princes, if they fail their invulnerable save. Especially nasty for Hellbrutes and Carnifexes and Wraith Lords and other things like this. Yeah, we're putting Battle Sisters in A tier. Absolutely exceptional in 1,000-point games. Really good in other points levels. Okay, well, let's do the minions. That's the obvious comparison. Dominions were used all of the time. Competitively, people weren't so bothered about the Dominions not being objective control 2. Almost all tournaments are 2,000 points. So when you're playing a competitive game, it's 2,000 points. I've been to like escalation tournaments. You play a combat patrol game of 500 points. Then a 1,000 point game, which is incursion. Then a 1,500 point game. And maybe then a 2,000 point game after that. Each time building on the army list you used in the previous game. Dominions are rather strong. You have so many rules. You have assault on all of the weapons apart from the superior's weapons. So like their combi weapon, their hand flamer doesn't have assault. But if you keep just having a bolt gun, regular bolt gun, that has assault. So if you have a Dominion squad, I prefer to have a hand flamer, which you can get from the Seraphim box or the Celestine Sacresant box, or make it yourself out of bits in the Battle Sister Squad box. Bolt pistol with the flamer attachment from the combi flamer, from the combi weapon bit that you're not using. Otherwise, yeah, a regular bolter is fine, then it has assault, then the whole unit can advance and still shoot. So you got assault going for you. You can scout 6 inches. You have a cherub. When you use a miracle dice on them, you get another miracle dice. You have righteous awareness, so once per turn the enemy ends a move, advance move, or fall back move within 9 inches, you can move d6 inches. Usually away from them, sometimes closer to block them from getting into combat with other things. This is especially good if you have a unit of just 5 Dominions. So you move d6 inches, oh, you now can't easily get round to me. What else have the Dominions got? Oh my, the Dominions can also reactive move into transports. This is a normal move. You make a normal move up to d6 inches. We can end our normal move within 3 inches of a transport, then you can embark on a transport. When you embark in a transport, all you need to be is within 3 inches. Doesn't matter the phase. Now, do Dominions have any more rules than that? Oh yeah, they have a simulacrum. They can generate you miracle dice. They have the Holy Vanguard thing, so if a character joins them and you embark in a transport, even if that character doesn't have Scout, you can still Scout. So if you wanted a Palatine with them, nah, I've tried it a lot in the Index when the Palatine could Scout anyway. You don't get much out of lethal hits, and the Palatine wants to do more combat-related things. Just having a bodyguard is fine. But no, not a Palatine. Ministorum Priest with a Flamer can be rather useful, but the Dominions don't need a character. They're fine not being attached to anything. The main thing you do with the Dominions is split them with an Immolator. Then you have the 4 special weapons, which are almost always going to be Melter Guns, plus the Superior in the Immolator, and the Superior is going to have like a Hand Flamer. Hand Flamer could be Inferno Pistol. Then you can move forward very quickly, you jump out, you Melter Gun the enemy within 6 inches, and if you're playing Bringers of Flame, those Melter weapons are now Strength 10, and the Inferno Pistol is Strength 9. The Dominions do a lot in, like, every detachment. You've got lots of Miracle Dice in the Army of Faith, so you can have your Melter Guns have high damage. You've got your reactive move, and transport shenanigans are great in, like, all of the detachments, but especially the Bringers of Flame. Storm Bolters are pretty good for just being on foot, scouting forward, and then shooting the infiltrating things. And potentially Space Marines, because lots of things that infiltrate have 2 wounds. Space Marine Scouts, Pure Strain Gene Stealers, they can all get shot by Storm Bolters. Poxwalkers, they infiltrate, damage 2, gets through that 1 wound plus the Feel No Pain. They do work rather well with Aestrid and Agathae. Before we get onto that, I'm just going to put the Dominions in A tier, because even at 120 points, they are still really good. You've just got to think, do I want Battle Sisters to do the same job? Can Battle Sisters do the same job as I'm putting this unit for? If you're having a unit that's getting in the way, yeah, Dominions will do that a bit better because they can reactive move in the way. If you're going to have them sit on an objective and split the other squad with an Immolator, maybe Battle Sisters can do it better. 5 Battle Sisters stay on the home objective with a Simulacrum, and now it's sticky, so even if they're killed by indirect fire, that's still your objective. Battle Sisters with a Melter Gun, Multi-Melter, Superior Weapon may be able to do a very similar thing as the Dominions if you're just putting them in an Immolator. But the Dominions do a lot of stuff for 120 points. 12 points per model is fine by me. Okay, Aestrid and Agathae. Flag. I'll put them in B tier for now. There are a lot of places with like devastating wounds. Sacresant is one place, -1 to be wounded because you have a character, and also now our like AP -1 little hammers, medium hammers, damage 2 hammers. If you roll a 6, then you're gonna do 2 wounds, but you have lethal hits on them, so that doesn't go as well with devastating wounds. It's still wounds, it's just now the enemy's gonna save on a AP -1, rather than if you'd rolled a 6 for the wound roll, then you're gonna be no save, no invulnerable save either. I've tried Aestrid and Agathae with Dominions, with all Stormbolters, a couple of times, and I did it in the Champions of Faith. You've got Suffer Not the Unfaithful for sustained hits as well. That works okay. It's a lot of relying on 6s, yes. In the Army of Faith, then you got AP -1 on Dominion Stormbolters. At that point, you probably don't need Aestrid and Agathae. Yeah, 4 Stormbolters. It's 16 shots. It's a lot of shots, and it's another horde clearing unit. So if you haven't got Arco-flagellants, Aestrid and Agathae with Dominions, it's going to be about 200 points though, because Aestrid and Agathae are 70 points yet, so it's 190 points. They went down, like, last balance patch, I think, from 85. So you can kill hordes, you can do alright against, you know, Space Marine level things, anything that's got 2 wounds. Against anything more than that, you are just rolling 6s and hoping for the best. So it's a kind of versatile unit. Yeah, it's a fun combination. But the Battle Sisters babes, Aestrid and Agathae, do a lot more than that. If you kill an enemy unit, any enemy unit, in any way, you gain a miracle dice. So if you blow away just a couple of Kroot that are left, yeah, one of the units that's infiltrating, you get a miracle dice. That's really valuable, especially at the start of the game where you have like 1 or maybe 2 miracle dice at the start. Now you have an extra one. And without needing to do anything in the Hallowed Martyrs, without even being in the Hallowed Martyrs, When Agatha dies, you get D3 Miracle Dice. Of course, in the Hallowed Martyrs, as she's a character model, you can bring Agatha back, and the second time she dies, that's another D3 Miracle Dice. It's like having Saintly Example wherever you are, but you don't need to pay any extra points for it. Quite a good unit. It's limited in how much they can do. It's not a super amazing combo. It's not like, oh wow, yeah, this is a staple, the way that Morvenn Vahl and Paragon Warsuits are, or the way a Hospitaller and Sacresants are. It's quite a good combo, so they're B tier. You could do it with Battle Sisters. Hey, let's throw out a load of shots with Battle Sisters, rapid firing, just bolt guns. Not as many shots, that's why Dominions are better. And you kind of want to, if you're going to do this, if you're going to have Aestrid and Agathae, have a good place for Aestrid and Agathae. That's about it though. It's one way that it works. I know I have a nice voice, but never mind. Oh, look at that! It's the next model on the tier list. It's a really sexy, elderly woman. The Diologus. That's who we're doing next. The Diologus does a few things. First of all, she's leadership 6+. Leadership is underrated. I was looking at something on Reddit that was suggesting, hey, what if once you failed a Battleshock test, you had to pass a Battleshock test in order to be un-Battleshocked? That would mean that abilities like the Genestealer Cult Patriarch ability to everything is 6 inches or 12 inches once per game takes a Battleshock test would actually mean something, as they wouldn't just recover before like the next time you're going to score primary mission points. I kind of like that as an idea. So better leadership is good. I also don't like when there's like the Shadow and the Warp goes off and everything on the table has to take a Battleshock test. Having leadership 6 is good. One of the Dialogus' abilities is at the start of any phase, so it's not going to be the command phase when you fail it, but like the start of the movement phase, you can un-Battleshock a unit. It's underrated. One time I really needed it and I forgot about it. Another time I really needed it and I remembered it. And I was able to un-Battleshock a Seraphim squad, so they were able to do an action to complete a secondary mission that got me some victory points. I don't think it was enough to win the game, but it was still really useful. And then also you can be like, oh yeah, that was a unit I made righteous. I need it not to be Battleshock because I'm going to spend stratagems on it. The other ability is the Stirring Rhetoric, which is more the one you want. Which is more the one where people say, yeah, put a Dialogus in everything. Well, everything that's got melter guns. Then, especially in the Army of Faith, as we've mentioned twice already, you've got a lot of things, because you've got 2 Acts of Faith per unit per phase, so the Dialogus can make 2 Miracle Dice into 6s, because it's each time this model's unit performs an Act of Faith. I don't see them much outside of the Army of Faith. A lot of people are like, oh yeah, should be good, just Battle Sister Squad, melter guns, instant lethal hits on something. That doesn't seem like a great use of Miracle Dice and a 40-point character. Retributers used to be the one that people would put them in, but now they've got rerolls and they've got +1. You don't need to spend an extra 40 points on an expensive unit to make them a 160-point unit, and one of your melter shots will definitely hit, or definitely wound, or be damage 6. Whichever one you need. Usually the damage, because then at that point you know it's worth spending a Miracle Dice, because you've hit, you've wounded, the enemy has failed their save, you're just doing plain damage. I think one of the models in the upcoming new Celestine Insidiant box should be out in January. One of them looks very Dialogus-y. If you want to get that box and have a Dialogus, wonder what those rules will be like. I hope they're good. I hope they have decent shooting as well as decent combat. They probably will be a bit of both. It's a kill team. It's a kill team box. Yeah, this is what they're like. A bit of shooting, a bit of combat, no real major specialization. You can also have the Dialogus run alone. They have a 4+ invulnerable save as of the Codex. They're the cheapest character. Just have them in a place. Oh, I haven't got 45 points for Arco-flagellants. I've only got 40. Well, there you go. Now you're fine. Right, we're putting this Dialogus in B tier. Okay, let's do this lady. Hello, I am the Daemonifuge. I am not a Psyker. My attacks are not psychic. They just happen in whatever the psychic phase is. Or at the start of the shooting phase, that was often the terminology. Not in the psychic phase, it's in the shooting phase. Yeah, she just believes and then lightning comes from her hands. That is correct. Nothing else happens. It's all good. Yeah, she's the one with the Xenos pet. So the Daemonifuge, which comes with a spare bullet sponge, 3 wound, 4+ invulnerable save bullet sponge, and I would definitely take them on Kaiganil first because you don't want to lose Ephrael Stern. Even though she has like a 3+ save. Ooh, it's 1 more to the save. No, you don't want to lose her. Whereas the outcast weapons of Kaiganil, it's precision. Yeah, 6 attacks. Precision, but it's only damage 1. Precision really needs to be damage 2 and have quite a few attacks. Like Sanctity does for the Daemonifuge. Or in like the Aquila kill team, the Decimus kill team, if you can have 2 guys with the snipers, they have precision, that's 4 shots at damage 2. That's pretty good. That definitely kills characters. I had one guy in my game with Imperial Agents. Just this one dude killed every character, every recruit character in my opponent's army. The A tier against Chaos, it's probably quite good. You're wounding most things on a 3-up anyway. Anti-Chaos 2+ means you can do some silly things and attack a War Dog, and it's wounded on a 2+. You've also got the Holy Judgment. That's at the start of the shooting phase. One enemy that's visible within 12 inches that we're firing a mind gun at. Sorry, a faith gun at. I cast Faith Gun. You take a Battle Shock test. It is a Battle Shock test, not a leadership test. So the enemy is Battle Shocked if they fail it. And if they're Chaos, it's -2 to that test. So if you wanted to take an objective, cast Battle Shock, the enemy takes 3 mortal wounds and is Battle Shocked. You don't need to kill them all to take the objective. It's yours at the end of your turn until the start of their next turn, which is immediately, of course. It's pretty good. Precision sometimes can be useful. I have used it to just jump in and kill like a Dark Apostle, kill a Demagogue in a Cultist or a Cursed Cultist with Dark Commune unit. Then they lose their once per game advance and charge. If they haven't used it already, tough. That sucks for you. We also have a Deep Strike. She can Deep Strike, and she's lone operative. You can stick her in the corner of the enemy deployment zone and complete secondary missions. Unfortunately, she's not a jump pack unit, so you can't use Angelic Descent to take her off the board and put her back on somewhere else. She fights first, so if she's charged, she'll go down swinging. That's not bad for 85 points. And also, Heroic Intervention for free. This is especially good in the Hallowed Martyrs. In the Hallowed Martyrs, you can do the Heroic Intervention, which doesn't cost anything. You fight before the enemy. You have precision. You have anti-chaos. Maybe, with the anti-chaos and precision, you can kill the enemy character that was giving the unit a bonus. So when they fight back, they don't get that bonus. Maybe it was like a Chaos Sorcerer that gives the unit -1 to be hit. Now when your other unit attacks, like your Sacresants, Arco-flagellants, whatever it is, they'll be hitting at the normal weapon skill. But you use Suffering and Sacrifice, so that in the Hallowed Martyrs, enemy models that can attack her have to attack her. And by her, I mean Kaiganil. And by the enemy, I mean a Demon Prince. I mean Angron. He just puts all of his attacks into Kaiganil, punches him really, really hard the way Jake Paul recently got punched in the face. That, but lots. And we hurt them first because we had fight first. Oh yeah, and then we can resurrect Ephrael Stern in the Hallowed Martyrs for 1 command point. If we so wished, she's out of combat when you resurrect her. If they were in a unit, they go back into that unit. So you can't, like, kill a jump Canoness, kick her out of the unit, and then she's separate. No, she goes back in a Zephyrim unit. Compared to the jump Canoness is 10 points fewer. And you can do a similar thing in Hallowed Martyrs, but you won't get to fight first. You think I'm underestimating the Rapid Ingress Heroic Intervention fight first combo? No, it's pretty good. It'll cost you 1 command point for the Rapid Ingress. You deep strike near to... Say you have a unit on an objective, the enemy's going to charge you and kill you. Well, you're going to heroically intervene and kill some of them. This is the thing. It's not like when you heroically intervene with anything else that can fight first, where you're doing it with like a Judicia and Deathwatch veterans, and the Rapid Ingress is free because you got the Beacon Angelus, and yeah, I play Deathwatch and I'm going to play this in the list soon. The Lion, yeah, other things that can fight first and heroically intervene and do way more damage. Now, it's 6 attacks with Kaiganil. It's 4 attacks from the Daemonifuge. You struggle to kill 5 Space Marines. Chaos Space Marines, anything like that. So it's nice, but that sort of big, powerful combo may want to be doing anything else. Do not make Kaiganil your Warlord. That will get you a Sisters versus Sisters fight. No, not allowed. Don't do that. Kaiganil is a character. You can technically make them the Warlord. No, don't do it. I think she's probably a B tier unit. Like, she's really good, generally, but extra special good in the Hallowed Matters, extra special good against Chaos. Regardless of lore stuff, because there is a Harlequin, the only named Harlequin, it's a B tier unit. Oh, the Palatine. The Lieutenant of the Battle Sister. She can smash stuff. She can smash stuff really well. You put a Miracle Dice into her, and every time she successfully wounds, and the rules commentary defines successfully wounding as when you succeed at the wound roll, so that's either by rolling on her strength 4 sword and you roll enough to make the wound roll happen. Enemy doesn't need to fail the save. It's wounded. If you rolled a 6 to hit with her lethal hits, that is a successful wound. You suffer 1 mortal wound in addition to any damage. If you make her do precision, either with the Epic Challenge stratagem and underrated stratagem, or with the Blade of St. Eleanor in the Army of Faith, you have precision. If you have precision on mortal wounds, then you can assign them with precision. If like your attacks that do mortal wounds also have precision, you can assign these to characters. Who's going to have a bolt pistol, not a plasma pistol? It makes no difference in game. It doesn't matter that the plasma pistol has more strength and AP and potentially more damage than the bolt pistol. You're rarely firing them like that, and we want to have the Holy Trinity. If you say, I could have had a plasma pistol, but I went with a bolt pistol for the Holy Trinity, you get several based points, and your opponent is just so much nicer to you. They'll be like, this is an easy opponent, and then you destroy them. Doesn't really matter. There's never a time where like, oh, I'm going to do it. Maybe in the Hallowed Martyrs, I'll think, I might risk overcharging it. Maybe I'll fail it and go down to 1 wound, and that will matter for like, through suffering strength. Then I'll get an extra attack, strength, and damage. As long as you can wound the enemy, you can do more damage to them. So she's best at hurting Chaos Space Marines. That sort of level, where you're wounding on a 4+. Or with some enhancement you give them, usually you're going to give the Palatine an enhancement, then you might be wounding them on a 3. Any kind of enhancement or abilities, might be scenario abilities, like the Twist, that gives your Lord of War 3 more attacks. Unless Morvenn Vahl is there, who has to be the Warlord, make the Palatine the Warlord. She has 3 more attacks. That's 3 more potential mortal wounds you're doing. Canoness is certainly an example of through suffering strength. We'll look at the Canoness in a second. But I think the Palatine will want through suffering strength. Because that's more attacks. It's higher strength. It's higher damage. The important thing is the attacks and the strength, making it more likely to wound, so the Rapturous Blows will give you more mortal wounds. Yeah, through suffering strength is a good one. Otherwise, she's just pretty good at killing stuff. You also get lethal hits with the Palatine. That's good on any non-flamer unit. Usually when you have a lot of attacks. Battle Sisters, yeah, that works. Probably not on Dominions, because you don't need a character with Dominions. You can, with the Catechism of Divine Penitence, attach her to Repentia in the Penitent Host. Now the Repentia have lethal hits and sustained hits, and with one of the stratagems, you can have that on a 5+. Very nasty. You can also put the Palatine with Sacresants. Then, I prefer a Canoness or a Hospitaller. But that's a character, the unit is -1 to be wounded. It's a lot of lethal hits, but then you're thinking, do I want halberds? Usually the worst choice because they're damage 1 rather than damage 2. The Mauls already have the lethal hits. You don't need to attach a Palatine to a lethal hit Maul-wielding Celestine Sacresant squad. Having her with Novitiates, just 5 Novitiates. Then in her squad you'll have the Superior, the Sacred Banner, so you can reroll advance rolls and charge rolls, and some Battle Sisters with knives. Lovely. The Palatine now rerolls hit rolls of 1, because she's part of the unit. If you're fighting an enemy on an objective, you reroll all the hit rolls. If you need lethal hits, you're more likely to get lethal hits. It's not reroll failed hits, you can just reroll all the hits, anything that's not a 6. Fish for 6s, get them, that's a lethal hit, that's an auto wound, that's another mortal wound on the enemy. As long as you spent that Miracle Dice for Rapturous Blows. So Novitiate's a really good choice, especially want to split by an Immolator, have her in the Immolator, jump out the Immolator, murder a thing. Yeah, she's an A-tier unit. Yeah, if you're fighting always knights who are hard to wound, you're not likely to get those mortal wounds through. Then it's like, do I use a Miracle Dice, do I not? Okay, Canoness. This Canoness on foot, went up 10 points. She was a 50-point model. Now she's 60 points. The Canoness does a lot of things, and I think the reason her points went up is because in the Hallowed Martyrs, people would have this Canoness by herself. Once per game, she has a 2+ invulnerable save. It's only for the phase, and you have to declare it at the start of the phase, so you don't know if the enemy's going to declare any shooting or charges or anything at you. But that's really annoying if she's by herself. Otherwise, you just kill a bodyguard. And I've used it when she's got a bodyguard and, oh, you didn't get through the bodyguard. That would be really useful to have. If the enemy has precision, lots of precision attacks, like we just mentioned with our Ephrael Stern, more likely a lictor. The lictors fight first. You've got to decide before the lictor attacks if you're going to use your 2+ invulnerable save. Or otherwise, if you say, no, I'm not going to use it, then the lictor rolls their attacks. It's like, these are precision. They're all going at your Canoness. You never get to use the 2+ invulnerable save. So if there's ever a time you might need to use it, just use it. The enemy not attacking you is about the same as the enemy failing to hurt you. Sure, they haven't wasted attacks, but the same result happens. Your Canoness lives. So her being just a character alone that can do a 2+ invulnerable save and can get back up in the Hallowed Martyrs, it's annoying for people. So 10 points. Oh, that's going to change everything. She can also do free grenades. That's a stratagem you're using regardless of detachment. Just use your grenades. Sacred Command, once per battle round. A stratagem costs 1 command point fewer. Grenade is now free. And then we've got to pick weapons, which is kind of a mess. It's kind of a mess. The Rod of Office, but then you can't have a Blessed Blade. It has to be a Power Sword and a Plasma Pistol because it's the old Combat Patrol set. That's how you get this loadout. Reroll hit rolls of 1 is very good for leading Sacresants who may be hitting on a 3 or a 2 if they're righteous. Champions of Faith. Or if they're injured in the Hallowed Martyrs and hitting on 2s, now you're rerolling hit rolls of 1. Oh, look at all the hits I have. If you're not doing that, I would have a Blessed Blade for higher strength and lethal hits. Also, then you can have an Inferno Pistol. Or a Condemned Bolt Gun. Both are fine. I think the Inferno Pistol's better. We're going to be in combat. We're going to be closer. We're going to be doing some damage right up there. So she's not likely to die, so I wouldn't put the Set the Example enhancement on her. Through Suffering Strength, that's a good one. Now we've got Strength 7 on the Blessed Blade, if you're using the Blessed Blade. Or a Strength 5 power weapon. That's pretty good. If you're in other detachments, well, in the Army of Faith, Divine Guidance, for free. All of the unit attacks just got an extra point of armor penetration. If you're in the Hallowed Martyrs, you can resurrect yourself on death. Cool. Awesome. Because you use a Divine Intervention on a unit that was just destroyed. And they're still on the table. That's how you can use a stratagem on them. Also, it says you can use the stratagem on them even though they're destroyed. 1 command point fewer. It's free. Get back up. You don't need to spend Miracle Dice on it anymore. You can do almost all of it again. You can't use the 2+ invulnerable save again a second time. Yeah, they're very versatile. Whenever you've got good stratagems, you want to have a Canoness in your army. Okay, they're an A-tier unit. That leaves us with 2 things, the Immolator and the Sacresants. We're talking about Sacresants. Let's do the Sacresants. They went up in points. They went up by 10 points for a squad of 10. You weren't taking squads of 5. There's very little point. There are so many other cheaper units that were more survivable or better survivable, like Crusaders, like Arco-flagellants, that will do the same thing as whatever you thought those 5 Celestine Sacresants were going to do. So it's a squad of 10, and it's 140 points. That's still reasonable. It's a unit you're going to want in the Hallowed Martyrs, or especially the Champions of Faith. They get all the bonuses in the Champions of Faith. They really need to have 2 wounds, otherwise they can just get murdered. People only started using them when their points dropped. And then they found that it's only going to work if you put a Hospitaller there, then they can actually survive a bit. Not a lot, just a bit. And you can still lose a lot of models, but at least you can resurrect them if they're not totally wiped out. AP -1, we're saving on a 4, then we die. So you've got to have the Celestians with a Hospitaller. And if you have 30 Hospitallers, no, if you have 30 Sacresants with 3 Hospitallers, that's what you just took a lot of points increase to. That's what you want to stop. Then you're an Anvil. The enemy will wound you probably on a 4 or a 3. I think 1 or 2 units is what you mainly want. That's what's worked better for me in the Army of Faith, in Champions of Faith, and in Hallowed Martyrs. Those are the detachments people use right now. I mean, if you don't need an Immolator to split a unit, yeah, a unit of 5 can be okay to hold a point. They can't be split by an Immolator. It's only Battle Sisters, Dominions, or Novitiates, the units that are forced to be squads of 10. But I think mostly people overvalue them. They came up a lot in tournaments because the detachments people are using are the Hallowed Martyrs and the Champions of Faith. So this is a unit that does well in those two detachments. That's why they were taken a lot. I have a unit in my Army of Faith. I don't necessarily need them. I've tried swapping them out for like Dominions or Battle Sisters, which are a bit cheaper. That'll be a lot of Battle Sisters in my army, like 3 squads of Battle Sisters. I think I might still need the Celestine Sacresants. Sometimes you can have a Palatine or Canoness instead of the Hospitaller, but really you're just going in with hammers. The Mauls, damage 2 Mauls with lethal hits. They work. In the Champions of Faith, there's one stratagem that makes them +1 strength, +1 AP. I think that's to the Heart of Heresy. We can't compare them to Celestine Insidiants. That'll be the big one. Imagine Celestines with bolt guns. I know. That would be nice. Okay, I think the Celestine Sacresants have dropped down to B tier. Yeah, so we'll put them in B tier. And then finally, we have the Immolator. Last unit. It's kind of necessary to make the Bringers of Flame work, and in tournaments and competitively, the Bringers of Flame is a good detachment. Yeah, it didn't go up in points, it's still 115 points. Oh, let's just put it in A tier. Mainly because it can split units. Battle Sisters, Dominions, or Novitiates. Those are the only 3 units it can split. So you get a going in and shooting things unit in the Immolator, and another unit that stays on an objective with a Simulacrum and generates Miracle Dice. Completes actions, gets in the way of the enemy. Half a Dominion squad reactive moving in front of the enemy so that they can block the enemy. That's only going to work with an Immolator to split them. Sticky objectives, Battle Sisters. 1 squad can now stick your objective in 2 places. Great. Split the Novitiates, you still get your infiltrating unit, and now you have a Palatine in an Immolator who can fully reroll hit rolls. The split is always 5 models and 5 models, and you attach characters after that. It's a big confusion for people. They think, maybe I can split it in a different way. But no, it says on the Immolator that you equally split the unit. And then you add characters after the split. The Immolator wants a multi-melter. That is a decent shot. It's, 2 shots because it's a multi-melter. You get to reroll the wound rolls. This is how you can have a half-decent shot at wounding an enemy vehicle, because you have twin-linked. Its special ability is to remove cover. Wonderful when you're firing anything else. Use the Immolation Flamers. They're not awful. Auto-hitting, strength 6, twin-linked. That guarantees that you get that Purge and Cleanse ability to remove the benefit of cover. 2d6 shots at strength 6. It's fine. It's fine. You probably want to stick with the multi-melter. But the Immolation Flamers are alright. Everyone forgets the Twin Heavy Bolter option for good reason. Okay. That is the tier list. This has been fun, and I'll see you next time. My darlings and viewers, have a great day of 40k.